All right, good evening, folks. Come on in and have a seat. We're going to get started. I'm going to call this meeting of the mayor and council to order. It's 6 p.m. on April the 12th, and we've got a couple of special guests here tonight. Let's make sure that they're here. I don't see them. All right. We got Dr. Kevin Williams, who will be giving the invocation tonight, and followed by Sergeant Drew Fowler with the Pledge of Allegiance. And after these two gentlemen have done their duties tonight, if they'll stick around, I'll make a few remarks about them. So if everybody will please rise. Pastor Williams. I was looking around. I didn't see him, so we'll ask Miss Marchman to do it for us.
Maybe bow our heads. Gracious Father. Gracious Father, it's once again that a few of your people have met. We ask that you would be in the midst of us, that what we do tonight, that would be pleasing to you. We're not only looking for ourselves, but for our community, as well as our constituents. Lord, we ask that you would direct our minds, our mouth, and our tongue, that we would say what is pleasing to you and would be beneficial to all that are here tonight and all that are watching and all that couldn't be here. Lord, bless us all. Keep us in your care. Bless this community. Bless the state. Bless the union. Bless everybody. Lord, we know you are everywhere at all times, so we're just leaning and depending on you, asking for your guidance that we may make right decisions, not pleasing everybody, but to please you, dear Lord. And if we please you, we know everything is all right. This is my prayer, I pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. All right, Sergeant Fowler.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. You all may be seated. Could y'all tell that Miss Marchman's done that before? Like on the spot. Yeah, that worked out.
The scripture says, be ye also ready, but I wasn't ready tonight. Thank you, Jesus.
You did a great job. Thank you for that. I had to kill off a little extra time here because I don't have to read off the other remarks I've got. But let me say a few words about Sergeant Fowler. Drew Fowler began proudly serving the citizens of Villa Rica in April of 2012 as a night shift patrol officer after serving in the United States Marine Corps. In February 2015, Drew became the K-9 handler for the Villa Rica Police Department, partnered with K-9 Bono. July of 2019, he was promoted to the rank of corporal, followed by a promotion to the rank of sergeant in October of 2019, where he was assigned to C shift, night shift as the supervisor. In July of 2021, Drew became the supervisor of the Special Operations Division, overseeing the traffic unit. Drew grew up in the West Georgia area and has made the city of Villa Rica his home for the last 7 years, along with his wife and 2 children. He appreciates having the opportunity to make a tangible difference here in Villa Rica. Please give Officer Fowler a hand. Thank you for your service, sir. And I think you may have done this before, and I reminded you then that you're only the second officer here to pull me over. Yes, sir. But he did his duty that day. Thank you for that. So, I don't know if everybody has thought about it, but today marks the 1-year anniversary of shooting that we had here in Villa Rica last year. So I wanted to make a few remarks on that. Earlier on that day, Officer Chase Gordy and other Villa Rica Police Department personnel responded to a police pursuit in which one of 2 men in a car had fired on officers. A Carrollton police sergeant, Rob Holloway, was severely injured during this incident, and Chase was badly wounded during a confrontation with the gunman. 2 Carroll County Sheriff's deputies engaged the shooter a short while later, one of whom was wounded, and a group of brave first responders from several departments helped Chase to get to safety as officers sought the gunman's accomplice. No words I have can adequately praise Chase, the other officers, and those who train and lead our officers every day. This anniversary is a reminder of the bravery of our officers who serve our city during days of routine patrol and days of extraordinary bravery, such as last April 12th. Their bravery and sacrifice were recognized in December at the Governor's Public Safety Awards, during which Chase, Corporal Drew Fowler, and Officer Kane Hemingway, who, along with others involved in this incident, received the Public Safety Act of Heroism Award. These same officers were also honored by our city and by the Carroll County Sheriff's Office. And I certainly want to recognize the continued devoted service of Police Chief Michael Mansour, who was recognized 2 weeks ago by Governor Brian Kemp and the Georgia Associations of Chiefs of Police as the Outstanding Chief of the Year. Please give all these folks a round of applause for the work that they do. Although it's a little further down on the agenda, I'm going to recognize the chief in a few minutes as well. But let me go in order of what we have on the agenda here. So we have some employee anniversaries we want to celebrate tonight. Recognize Carson Avery White with 5 years of service with distribution and collection. Is Carson here? Come on up here, Carson. Who's going to say a few words? Pete? Say something nice about Carson. Hand him a microphone, Pete. We can barely hear you anyway.
Yeah, well, I'm proud to recognize Carson tonight. He's a young family man. He's got a 1-year-old daughter and 2 one-month-old twin boys. So he's got his hands full. He's a hard worker. He's always been inquisitive. He asks some really good questions. He always likes to know how things work. And he's been willing to help other departments when we've asked him to do it. And he's tolerated me making him wear a life preserver, even when he was in ankle deep water. But all of his efforts have also led to his promotion to crew leader. And he's done a really good job leading the crew in our distribution and collection system. So we're very proud of him.
Please give Carson a hand. Hey, Pete. Okay, Ellen Ramsey Swain. Oh, you're going to get a picture. 10 years of service. Did you walk in just in time?
She did.
See, you got an introduction as you entered the door.
Right.
Come on up here. 10 years of service. I'll ask Tracy to say some words.
I had already flipped the page over to my other introduction tonight, so glad to have you with us. This is Ellen Swain with our Senior Services Department. Ellen has worked for the City of Villa Rica Parks and Recreation Department in Senior Services now for 10 years. She coordinates and delivers our Meals on Wheels and has been doing that for a very long time, and it's a very important function that we do. Serving the homebound seniors with a fresh and healthy meal is very important to us, and Miss Ellen loves doing her job daily. She currently delivers over 150 meals per week to those citizens who cannot get out and who need it the most. Ellen has 2 children, 2 granddaughters, and is an active member of the Marvelous Light Christian Ministries. Ellen, I want to thank you for all you do to help serve the citizens of Villa Rica and for your 10 years of service.
Thank you. Please give her a hand. All right, thank you. Darren Andrew Fowler. I had no idea that was your name. 10 years of service with us. Who's going to say a few words? The chief. There you go.
Sergeant Drew Fowler, Mr. Mayor.
There you go.
You demoted
Absolutely.
him.
No,
You
sir.
demoted him.
Not to Darren. Not to
Maybe
Darren.
more than I did. I didn't know. I haven't left here yet. There might be something on that side.
Yeah, we have some paperwork for it. So we're recognizing Drew. His first name is Darren, which I think is funny. I mean, anyway. But Drew has been with us 10 years, and Drew's done a whole lot. You got to hear some of it. Drew came to us from the Marine Corps. He's been a leader in the department. He's worked K-9, still has the K-9 Bono with him, and Bono's getting ready to retire. So we're going to see where we go next with Drew, but hopefully he'll just keep working hard and doing a great job. He's been an awesome asset for our department, just a really good leader for us, and we're just so proud of him. So congratulations.
All right, thank you, sir. Alyssa, do we have these? All right. Okay, so Jeremy's not here, right? All right, well, we'll recognize 20 years of service with Jeremy Dukes at our next meeting if we can possibly do that. Next up, let's have a presentation of our new senior center manager. I guess she couldn't be here at the last meeting. Is she here this time? All right, good. Lisa Deming, come on up. We'll ask Tracy to introduce her to us.
Okay. Lisa Deming is our new senior center manager. We just had our past manager retire after 33 years of service. So we welcomed Lisa earlier in March. So I want to tell you a little bit about her. She was born and raised in the Villa Rica area. She earned her undergraduate degree in psychology and a master's in gerontology from the University of West Georgia. She worked at Tanner Medical Center in Carrollton in the social work case management department for 6 years before staying at home with her 2 sons. In 2001, Ms. Deming began her service in the senior services arena as the Carrollton Senior Center supervisor. She is now looking forward to enriching the lives of our older Americans across the city of Villa Rica. Lisa and her husband Jay have 2 sons, Joshua and Mason, and currently reside in the Hewlett area of Carroll County. Please help me welcome Ms. Lisa Deming to the Parks and Recreation Department in her new role as the Senior Center Manager.
All right, welcome aboard. Thank you. Okay, so next item on our list is going to be the recognition of the police chief. As we have talked about a number of times, we're very fortunate to have Chief Michael Mansour here in Villa Rica. He's been with us a very long time, and he runs an outstanding department here. And last year, was it for the 2021 year, he was selected as the Chief of the Year. We've talked about this before, but a couple of weeks ago, we had the honor of accompanying the chief to the Capitol, where he was recognized by the governor as the Georgia Chief of the Year. So I'm going to read this proclamation from the governor into the record tonight, then we'll ask the chief to come up for a minute and say a few words. This is by the governor of the state of Georgia, a commendation. Whereas Villa Rica Police Chief Michael Mansour has served the community of Villa Rica for 17 years and has more than 40 years of experience in law enforcement, and whereas Chief Mansour was recognized as the 2021 Georgia Police Chief of the Year by the Georgia Association of Chiefs of Police for his outstanding dedication and professionalism, and whereas prior to his career in Villa Rica, Chief Mansour served in the Floyd County Police Department, University of West Georgia Police Department, and the Carrollton Police Department, where he rose to the rank of captain, and whereas through his leadership, the Villa Rica Police Department has become a state-certified agency under the Georgia Law Enforcement Certification Program and has seen an expanded school resource officer program, increased starting salaries, and recognized traffic safety initiatives, and whereas Chief Michael Mansour has dedicated his life to serving his community through law enforcement, helping thousands of citizens along the way, and is a worthy recipient of the Georgia Police Chief of the Year Award. Now, therefore, I, this is the governor, Brian P. Kemp, Governor of the State of Georgia, do hereby commend Chief Michael Mansour. Please give the Chief a hand.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That was a huge honor for me. I have to admit, I've done this for a long time, and he said I've been in law enforcement 40 years. I started when I was 10, so that's pretty good. But I still love being a cop. I still love being a police officer. They gave me the opportunity, some of the people on this council gave me the opportunity to come here as the police chief, and it's been a great move. I've made a lot of great friends. I work with some amazing people. We have a outstanding staff at our department, and the city supports us, and the people we work with support us, and we really appreciate that. So this is something that I don't take lightly. I'm very honored by it. My wife has been there almost my whole career and supported me as a cop, and that's tough to be a cop's wife. So I appreciate that, and she's always just been there to back me up and make sure, if things are going bad, she brings me up. If I think I'm too big for my britches, she brings me back down. So try not to read my own headlines, as they say. But I just appreciate this very much, and like I said, it's a huge honor. So thank you.
All right, I'm going to now move into the agenda. Are there any proposed changes to the agenda before I entertain a motion to adopt this agenda? All right, if there, yes, sir, Mr. Mecklin.
One quick issue on that.
Yes, sir.
I think I've ordered that I got to leave to catch a flight to go to the funeral tomorrow at 7:30. Item C7, which is the amendment to the alcohol ordinance, public hearing. I just wanted to raise that. That's something that I probably need to be here. I don't know if we'll get to that before 7:30 or not.
Let me try to, let me see if I can move that. Give me just a minute. Why don't we move that to C1? So let's move that to C1, and then we'll shift everything else down. I don't know what the numbers will be. So that'll be the amendment. Is there any other amendments? Okay, if there are no other amendments, is there a motion to adopt the agenda as amended?
So moved. Second.
All right, have a motion to adopt the agenda as amended, seconded by Mr. Carter. All in favor? All right, so we've adopted the agenda. Let me just make sure I make a note here. Okay. You could be prophetic there. We may not have gotten to that by 7:30, but now we'll make sure we get it. Okay, so we've reached the part of the meeting where we have public comment. I have a fairly healthy list here. We do limit each individual to 3 minutes. I hope this doesn't run terribly long, but we want to give everybody a chance. So it's possible that you actually put your name on this sign-up sheet for public comments tonight, but you really meant to speak during a public hearing on a particular item. If I call your name and you actually are here to speak on during the public hearing, you can just let me know that, and you can keep your seat, and we'll let you speak at the time of the public hearing, because each item on the agenda that has a public hearing, you'll have an opportunity to speak during that time as well. And you can do both if you're so inclined, but most people just do one or the other. So please keep your comments on a professional level. We will not accept comments that are considered by the chair to be of a personal attack on any individual or group of individuals. If you deviate from this protocol, you'll receive a warning from the chair. If you deviate a second time, you'll be leaving. Only one person speaking at a time. Please address your comments to the council, and no comments from the audience while you're speaking. And just as a side note, so everyone knows, if you're not a regular here, these are your 3 minutes. I'm going to let you speak. There's generally not any back and forth here. So, first up, Jay Davis. Sounds fun. All right, let's give him 3 minutes. Give us your name and address for the record.
Jay Davis,
Yeah.
55 Goldworth Road, Villa Rica, Georgia. Thank y'all for being here tonight. I actually spent a good amount of the time y'all were in your work session today watching you online, so thank you for pushing that all the time. That's a good thing. I was able to see that. And then second of all, I saw y'all's, it felt like 3-hour struggle with this road event over on Pumpkin Town Road. My takeaway on that is sidewalks on both sides of the road are always a good idea. So if that comes up ever in your discussion, I think it's a terrific move. And whatever you can do to keep those stupid trucks off the road is a good thing. Secondarily, and probably most importantly, I wanted to apologize to the mayor during your latest TAD presentation. I stood up and said something about school system that you didn't deserve during that meeting, and I wanted to take a public moment to apologize since it was a public moment that I took the other way. So thank you all for working so hard for us. I'm grateful, and have a good night.
All right, thank you, sir. All right, James Reno. All right, sir, come on up. If you will give us your name and address for the record, we'll give you 3 minutes. Yes, sir, right over to the podium there. Just adjust that mic so we can hear you.
Okay. Not too tall. Short as the man in my family. My name is James Reno. I live at 609 Old Town Road, Apartment B, Villa Rica, Georgia. You ready?
Go
Okay.
ahead.
On April 5th at about 12 o'clock, I came home to what most parents don't want to come home to. My daughter, who has mental illness, PTSD, and late onset autism, was missing. Ran outside, looked for her, called 911, ran down the road, and fortunately, rather quickly ran into officers at the Shell gas station across from Tanner Villa Rica Hospital. I go in there just to be explicit. My daughter was nude, but they had covered her and treated her with respect, and it was obviously very relieving for me. I came in there, they asked all the right questions, they made sure she was safe. I got to take my daughter home, and it worked out great. I got the names of the officers: Stephen Lujan, Anthony Allen, and Shane Shepard. I wanted to thank them for, they took a moment in my life which I had always dreaded, never had an encounter with my daughter with law enforcement, and they took a moment that I feared happening because my daughter has a tendency to be episodic, especially if people are loud or obnoxious. After the fact, I did go to the store and I watched the video footage because, I'm a parent. I kind of wanted to make sure it was all handled right before I arrived. Watched the video footage, couldn't have been handled better. I mean, they immediately covered her, they immediately took care of her. They seemed to be talking very calmly to her, which kept her very calm throughout the whole thing. And I think as a parent of a child with mental illness, that is a relief to live in a community where if something happens, the police are not going to treat your daughter as an outcast or as a problem, but they are helpful and know how to handle the situation, and they handled it very well.
Wow, well, thank you very much. Let's give these officers a round of applause because
Thank y'all.
that is really the testament to the kind of leadership that we have here. And I want you to say a few words, Chief. We don't often get people come in public comments and really give gratitude and kudos like that. And I appreciate you doing that, Chief.
So, Mr. Reno called me and explained the situation to me, and I told him how much I appreciate him reaching out and calling us and letting us know that we handled it appropriately. And I asked him, I said, would you be willing to come and speak at public comment, because he wanted to publicly thank the officers, and he never hesitated. He came up to do this, and I appreciate that very much. I'd like to also recognize each officer, and I want you to shake their hand if you don't mind. I also brought them a Chief's coin. A Chief's coin is when an officer does something above and beyond, and it's not easy to get. I don't give these out very often, but when they handle a situation exactly like they're supposed to, and do it the right way, and they take care of the little girl, they take care of her dignity, and they protect that means a lot to me as a police chief. So I want to recognize them for doing that. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Give them.
A million other ways than it went right.
Thank you for coming, sir.
Thank you.
All right, let me move on in this list. Kim Wyatt. All right. Oh, okay, so public hearing. All right. I don't know who lives at 141 Parkway Circle. I can't read your name. You want to speak? Public hearing. Okay. Got James Reno on here again. Cross that out. Johnny Blankenship. I'm here. Public hearing. All right. Clayton Hoyle. Same thing. Brian Britt. Is that public comment? Public hearing. All right. Rex Camp. Mr. Camp, if you'll come up and give us your name and address for the record, we'll give you 3 minutes.
Rex Camp, 719 Old Tan Yard Road, Villa Rica, business address 209 Main Street or Temple Street. I'm here to address the issue with making Temple Street a one-way street. This is the third time since March the 3rd, 2008 that I've addressed this council on this issue. Nothing has changed. The issue here is going to be the making of one left turns at this intersection that will stop traffic and give them no place to go. It will not change. If you go ahead with this one-way street, it will be so destructive to the businesses and the city in general, I can't even imagine. I have a lots written. I've given your secretary a letter, and I've emailed each one of you. The left turns alone is enough reason not to make this a one-way street. But if in the event you do feel like that this need, stop it at Candler Street and leave my businesses alone. I don't know what else I can say. It's anytime you have to address four times in a history, 3 times since 2008, is too much. Any comment on you for you?
Well, I want to give you all this time.
I've got all
Mr.
the time
Camp.
I need.
All right.
Because the bottom line is you are making a sad mistake if you do this. And the parklets that have been put in down here is a bigger obstruction than anything. They should have never been put here. I did not oppose them because it did not affect me directly, but now it does. With those there, that's what makes a one-way street even fathomable. But it's still not right. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. Okay, so I was actually going to make some comments on that, but now I'll just see if there's anybody else here who didn't put their name on the list who would like to speak in public comments. Okay, seeing none, I'll close the public comments portion of the meeting. I recognize Mayor Kaysen in the audience, so I want to recognize you here. I'm terrible at actually scanning the audience and seeing everybody here, but I want to recognize Mayor Kaysen for being here tonight. Let's get on down here to council updates. Is there any council member who wish to be recognized for some updates or concerns? Okay. All right, so I'll close the council updates portion of the meeting. Now let's, earlier today, we met for a really long work session, the longest one I've ever been a part of. It went from about 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. with a short lunch. Anyway, I said all that to say we created a consent agenda of 22 items. All of these items had some or a lot or extended discussion. before being placed on the consent agenda. I'm going to read through this consent agenda. If at the end there are any objections to any of these items, I'll hear those, and if there are none, we will adopt the consent agenda. Item 1, consent item number 1, CVB board appointment, Neville Bada. Consent item number 2, CVB board appointment, Dan Christner. Consent item 3, presentation and authorization to refinance the Public Facilities Authority Series 2015 bond. Consent 4, Agan Development, City of Villa Rica, Mirror Lake Community Association agreement regarding summer sport detention ponds. Consent number 5, 2022 community grant application for Alzheimer's Group of Carroll County. Consent number 6, 2022 community grant application for Thomas A. Dorsey Birthplace Festival. Consent number 7, 2022 community grant application for Villa Rica Lions Club. Consent number 8, Atlanta Eats proposal, Villa Rica feature. Consent number 9, cell phones for city council. Consent number 10, July 3rd fireworks. Consent number 11, portable restrooms for July 3rd fireworks display. Consent number 12, request for ratification of emergency repair of Brandywine Lift Station Pump number 2. Consent number 13, North Plant Disc Filter number 1 upgrade. Consent number 14, Lift Station Supervisory Control and Data Acquisition, SCADA upgrade. Consent number 15, purchase of 2022 International HV 607 grapple truck for Solid Waste Department. Consent number 16, cancel $450,000 promissory note with DDA and forgive $75,000 loan. Consent number 17, renewal with GERMA for property and liability insurance. Consent number 18, fiscal year 2022 budget amendments, numbers 169 through 182. Consent number 19, resolution of support, raise grant program application, and 20% match commitment. Consent number 20, approval of third phase of professional services agreement with the law firm of Gilbert, Harrell, Summerford, and Martin. Consent number 21, draft of intergovernmental agreement between Villa Rica and the Carroll County School Board concerning the East Side TAD. Consent number 22, draft of intergovernmental agreement between Villa Rica and Carroll County government concerning the East Side TAD. Are there any objections to any of these items I've just listed? If there are no objections, is there a motion to adopt the consent agenda?
Move to adopt the consent agenda.
I have a motion to adopt the consent agenda and a second by Ms. McPherson. All in favor? We have adopted the consent agenda. That's unanimous. Okay. Let's move on to tab B, governing body. Approval of the council meeting minutes of March 8th, 2022. Council, you've had an opportunity to review these minutes. Are there any modifications, or is there a motion to approve as presented?
Motion to approve if there's no corrections.
All right, I have a motion to approve the council meetings of March 8th, 2022. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a second from Ms. McPherson. All in favor? That's unanimous. All right. B2, Carroll County Mental Health Advocates. There'll be a presentation by Jody Goodman, who's the Director of Carroll County Health Advocates, Lieutenant Greg Falls, Director of the Carroll County Crisis Response Team, and Betty Kaysen, Mayor of the City of Carrollton. Would you three come up to the podium here? And I'm going to give you the floor.
Thank you, Mayor McDougall, and I am here wearing a different hat tonight other than the Mayor of the City of Carrollton. I'm here wearing the hat of Chairman of the Board of Directors of the Carroll County Mental Health Advocates. And hearing the men talk about how the police handled that situation just makes my heart swell, because I know your officers, along with a lot of our officers, have been trained and through the crisis intervention training. And it just goes to show that this kind of training really pays off. And so I want to also thank you for recognizing Sergeant Holloway and the other officers that were injured. Sergeant Holloway is just doing wonderful, and today, of course, was a big celebration for him. And we appreciate the relationship that we have within our law enforcement community, that they're always there for each other, and I think that's great. And I don't think you probably find some of that in other agencies in other counties, but I think Carroll County is very blessed in with their cities and the sheriff's department for the backup. But what we want to talk to you tonight a little bit about mental health, and that's just one example. And I don't know if any of you listened to the legislature this session. A lot of their primary goals have been to address mental health issues in Georgia, and in our area, we as probate court judge for 22 years, I saw an enormous amount. And it wasn't just Carrollton, it was Carroll County. And so out of that, in 2008, there was a group of stakeholders that came together and met. Some of these were just concerned citizens and a lot of other leaders in our community. And we realized that there was an ever-growing health issue, and this health issue was a mental health crisis that was happening in our county. And we would send people for an evaluation, and sometimes they would be back before the deputy got back because they weren't getting the treatment they need. And I have to say, Georgia's system is very broken, but hopefully it's going to get better. But after that, we came up with the Carroll County Mental Health Advocates to help people navigate through the system. And Jody's going to explain to y'all exactly what we do and how this has really made an impact. And then Lieutenant Falls is going to address it from the law enforcement aspect of it, of how much having our own mental health crisis unit for Carroll County has made such a difference. And if you haven't dealt with the Georgia crisis line, you just talk to somebody that has and find out how inadequate it is. I mean, I could stand here and tell you story after story from being the probate court judge of people calling the crisis line, and what they basically do is tell them to go see the probate court judge. And sometimes the response time is just, it's unbearable because you've got somebody in crisis. But with a lot of support from a lot of partners in our community, we now have our own crisis response team. And we would like very much for you all to be partners with us in that. So I'll turn it over to Jody.
Mayor, Council, thank you all for having us on the eve of the longest work session you've ever had. So no pressure. Just wanted to go over a few of the services that we provide at CMHA. We have diversion programs that we work with individuals who've been charged with minor misdemeanor crimes. We work with state court at Carroll County and our city municipal courts, and we would love to get involved with your city municipal court here in Villa Rica if you would like us to. We have mental health advocates that work with individuals through their journey, through their treatment programs. We have law enforcement training opportunities. We have peer support programs, certified peer support specialists that have lived experience with mental illness and who are living in recovery. And we have community outreach that helps to help the community break the stigma. We formed a youth mental health task force in our community, and we have recently been named the RCO for Carroll County, which is the Recovery Community Organization, to be a staple in our community for Carroll County. If we'll move to the next slide, we want to talk about this community impact. Last year, we served 428 individuals as walk-in clients. We had over 1,200 peer support attendees, and these are our stats. I won't bore you with numbers because I know that y'all have been here for a very long time today, and we want to get on to the mobile crisis unit and talk about all the good things that they do. So if we'll move to the next slide. So the Carroll County Crisis Response Team, what does that do? What does that look like? It is a 2-member team in an unmarked unit. It is a law enforcement officer that is also a certified paramedic with a licensed professional counselor that respond to 911 calls that are dispatched as mental health crises in Carroll County. And that the goal is to de-escalate those situations on scene to prevent that individual from further trauma, from being arrested and going to jail, and really to solve that crisis on scene. And one that, creates further trauma for the client. It saves valuable resources to the community from other law enforcement first responders getting involved. And it saves you all as taxpayers valuable money and resources. If we can move the slide up. And if we can keep going. As Mayor Kaysen said, the Georgia Crisis and Access Line, I've personally waited on the phone for up to 5 hours with a client in crisis, which is the state's resource that's available to us in Carroll County, because that dispatches out of Gwinnett County, and as we know, traveling to Carroll County from Gwinnett is a nightmare through traffic, and that's just not an answer. So here in Carroll County, we gathered all the forces that be and decided to create our own crisis unit for our citizens in our county. And it's working. It's working. We launched in April. If you'll move to the next slide. We joined forces with Carroll County Mental Health, City of Carrollton, Carroll County, Willowbrook at Tanner, Pathways, and Mr. Steve Adams donated a vehicle, and we launched April of last year in 2021. And Community Foundation of West Georgia gave us some funds to outfit the vehicle. And we've responded to almost 400 calls in that time. I've talked about this already, so I don't want to repeat myself. This is the unit. Again, it's unmarked when it's in service. Both the team, they're in plain clothes so as not to excite anyone when they arrive. They don't arrive in blue lights or anything like that. Try to keep everything as calm as possible. Next slide, please. Right now, again, I said we're one team, one unit, so we only work one shift, so funds are limited, and we do have plans to expand. We have ordered another vehicle, but we need to staff that vehicle. We need to staff that unit. So Lieutenant Falls is here he's the director that oversees the unit, and if you have any questions for him.
I notice you have 18 pages here. Do you not want to get to all 18 of those
I
pages?
can. I just am trying to be quick and efficient because I know you guys have been here for a long time.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate that. Look, I've been out there to see that vehicle. I was
Yes,
out there
sir.
in Carrollton with the officer and the paramedic that was with it. I think that what you all are doing is, it's invaluable. I don't even know how we could, I think the work Mayor Kaysen's done has been, tremendous in this particular field. I think for my question, what I would want to know is what type of contribution are you looking for?
Well, and if we're talking about value, I think that Villa Rica PD answered a little over 20,000 calls last year in 2021. If you put a money value on that, I think it's about $220 per call, maybe a little less, $218 per call. If you look at the manpower, and I think there's officers in the room, our chief will attest to this. If you respond to a mental health call, you're probably spending 2 to 3 hours on that call, depending on the outcome or the disposition of that call. With this unit, when the unit shows up, they could tap out with the other officers. Those officers can immediately leave. They handle it from there because that licensed professional counselor has the ability to sign a 1013, and they transport those individuals directly to a facility, whether it be they directly admit to Willowbrook, which we have established that relationship where they can walk in the back door with Willowbrook, and we're super proud of that, or we transport directly to Pathways in Noonan, and that's alleviating valuable resources of y'all's police department.
I can imagine that. So they transport in that actual vehicle?
They do.
Because when I looked in that vehicle, it looked like it had a ton of equipment in it, but I guess I didn't look in the back seat.
It has a clear,
It has a cage in it.
Okay.
Just like a police car, except it's just unmarked on there.
And of course, I'm not a mental health expert by any stretch, but I can just imagine how long it might take for officers on a scene. 3 hours sounds like it's probably a fair number on a lot of those calls. So I can see the value just in being able to relieve those officers to get back to regular duty while someone handles
Yes, sir.
this type of a case. And of course, this saves us a lot of time and resources because we transport to Carroll County, and there's just a number of ways I can see how that benefits us. So when you talk about a contribution, though, and I'm gonna let council ask a few questions in a minute,
Sure.
but do you have a dollar amount or something that you're
So our ask, if I'm just being straight out, and these are some of our outcomes for the year, but our ask is, if we can be so blunt, is to ask for a portion of our second unit's officers' salary and benefits, which starting pay is $45,000 plus benefits
Okay.
for an officer
all right, let me
to
so
outfit that unit.
we would, yeah, and I heard you say earlier you sort of already had the vehicle ordered, but now you needed some
We need to staff
assistance
it.
with the staffing.
Yes, sir.
And so I guess we would need to do a little bit of work at the staff level and come up with some kind of
Yes, sir.
proposals, and that's fair. But let me allow council, if they have any questions, to ask now. Does anybody here would like to ask any questions? Ms. McPherson?
Thank you for what you do.
Yes, ma'am.
I have heard y'all local radio. I've heard them talk about it, and I've read the articles in the paper and all. So pretty much, I think the mayor covered it where we need to talk to staff and figure out. So I'm aware of what the units are, and I knew you wanted to expand. But anyway, I appreciate this. I'll finish looking over the rest of what you've given us on outcomes and that sort of thing.
Yes, ma'am, and I have a ton of we collect data. That is what we do, because we know that data speaks and numbers speak to you all making decisions. So we have it. If you want it, it's there.
Absolutely. Anybody else? All right,
Yes,
Ms.
ma'am.
McCoy.
Because I'm a numbers person.
Yes, ma'am.
I know you said 45,000 plus benefits. When you say a portion, could you give us a percentage or something?
Half would be great.
And let me tell you something else too,
Maybe a few.
Oh, I'm
Yes.
sorry. The other thing is sometimes, I know the officers just have to take them to jail, okay, because they've committed a crime, but they wouldn't have committed the crime if they hadn't had mental illness. So they go and they sit in jail. And, for one person for a year to stay in jail is $12,775. So if you had 4 people a year, 4 people that stayed there for a year as an average, you would spend $51,000 in jail fees. And that's not getting that person any help. So our whole purpose of doing this, and Jody talked about it and has it on the slides, is they do follow-up. They don't just hand that person off. When that person gets out of their treatment, we have case managers that work with them to make sure they stay on track. And then you don't have the revolving door with your officers. You don't have those 9 calls a day from the same person, or in some cases, a lot more calls. So it really is a cost savings, plus you're being able to help your citizens. And it's not just mental illness. It's substance abuse. It's the whole gamut of it, which all that is covered under a large umbrella. But, I just want you to think about if our crisis response team can respond to them rather than them being taken to jail, then more than likely you're going to have a person that's not going to be taken to jail again and be a productive citizen. And I'm sorry, I try not to get on my soapbox, but I do sometimes. It's just
Well, you do because
passion.
you're very passionate about
I am.
this.
I'm very passionate about it, and I know this works, and we've seen the results of it.
Well, I
Thank
think
you.
that, did you?
Yeah, I had something. I just
All right,
had
go ahead.
something to add. Is
Go ahead.
that first off, I just want to say I do think that not a stigma so much, but mental health does get overlooked. We go for our physical health, we go for a checkup, and no one thinks to go for
Right.
their mental health checkup. And this is a total joke, but most people I know who say they don't need therapy are the people who need it the most.
Absolutely.
It's a total joke. So I really think it's an amazing program that y'all are putting together. But I did have one more question, which was how many of y'all's response, and that might be in the data, and you can totally refer me to the data, but how many of your responses are maybe criminal or law enforcement in nature, and how many are not, like they didn't commit a crime? Or they're just going through something or having a bad,
I don't know the exact number.
just a ballpark, or you can refer me to the
I
data,
would
it's
say- I
fine.
would- We can get you the data.
Okay.
But I will say, not all of them are criminal
Okay.
activity. And we're very proud that during our year, we've only made one arrest.
Oh.
And that's because of warrants and other things that they had that we just couldn't. But usually, we will try to work with officers, and if they call us, they know that there's a line there.
Okay.
So,
I mean, we're doing everything in our power to avoid jail at all costs, because jail is not the answer.
it's not helping them.
Oh, no, I
And if we
completely
can
agree.
convert this guy, yes, we can change the mindset.
Okay. And kudos on your speedy presentation. I appreciate that.
And I did want to make one final comment about a success story. We had one individual that was calling 911 up to 27 times in one day. We started working with him in last April, and since we've been working with him, I don't think he has called 911 to date.
Wow.
Yes.
That is a success story.
Yes. So thank you all for your time.
I want to thank you for coming here and for doing this. And I think about an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. I mean, and what you're doing here, it's surprising to me that this kind of thing hadn't caught on much earlier. When you think about the quick response vehicles with the fire department, I mean, it's sort of in that same vein, right? We're sort of trying to head off a bigger problem. So thank you for your work, and I know at the staff level we'll see if we can get to that 50%. I don't know where we're going to get to.
Yes, sir.
But we'll see where we're at.
Thank you for
y'all.
your time.
Yes.
Well, and the other thing too is, I mean, you think about it, when you get that 911 call, and, I mean, usually an ambulance, a fire truck, and a law enforcement officer goes out there. So you've eliminated all of that.
That's right.
So it's been a plus for everybody.
All right.
But thank y'all, and I would love to stay.
I'm sure you would.
I really would, because I'd love to see how y'all handle things, but I sat through this last night, so.
Well, thank you. Thank you for being here, Mayor.
Oh, and thank y'all for your support.
Thank you all.
All right. Okay, let's move on to community development. But the first thing we're going to take up here is what is on your agenda as C7, Amendment to the Alcohol Ordinance. And we've brought this over to the regular session so that we could have a public hearing on this item. Mr. Mecklin, would you like to introduce the item, and then I'll do the public hearing?
I will, and I'll try and speak loud. And we are here today for the council to consider a proposed ordinance.
For the
I can hear you, but
audience at home.
People at home.
I'm sorry. Well, we're here today to consider an ordinance that will regulate the issuance of licenses for the package sale of distilled spirits within the city of Villa Rica. If you recall, there was a referendum last year, which was overwhelmingly approved here in the city of Villa Rica, to authorize the passage of such an ordinance if the council sees fit to do so. This ordinance has been drafted based on trying to take the good parts of other ordinances from other cities. A quick nutshell is that the city of Villa Rica is divided up into 4 sections, that there would be one potential license issued in each section. If more than one applicant applies in those sections, there would be a lottery held to determine who received the license in that section. There are requirements to try and make the establishments be well-run, well-maintained, and significant so that they would not be a blight on the city. Some of those requirements include a minimum inventory within the store. It requires a freestanding 4-sided brick building, and we believe that based on looking at other cities that this would help us have a good product within the city of Villa Rica.
All right, that's very good. Let me start by finding out if council has any questions before I open it up to a public hearing. Is there any council members who would ask any questions of Mr. Macklin? Okay. We have talked about this extensively. We did take this up in a retreat back in January, and we had some earlier discussion today during the work session. So, is there anyone here who would like to, this is going to be the public hearing, who would like to speak for or against this item now? Okay. Seeing nobody, I'll close the public hearing portion of this item, and do we have a motion now, David?
We have a motion, yeah.
Okay, there it is. I see it. All right. I would entertain a motion if someone would like to make a motion on this
Okay,
item.
I move
Mr.
to
Carter.
adopt the ordinance to authorize the issuance of licenses for the sale of distilled spirits by the package in the city of Villa Rica as attached hereto.
All right. I have a motion. Do I have a second? I do not have a second. All right, I have a motion to adopt the ordinance to authorize the issuance of licenses for the sale of distilled spirits by the package in the city of Villa Rica as attached here too. I have a second from Ms. McCoy. Is there any discussion?
Yes.
Ms. McPherson.
Just that I would have liked us to consider amending it from the four-sided brick and also from the requirement on the inventory to be 750,000. I just feel like I think that's going to be tough to monitor, and I think it's very restrictive on the owner. And, you know, I have a little bit of an issue with it, but I know I don't have the votes, that I feel like we're really just setting it aside for a very select few, although I do not, you know, I do want nice buildings. We don't want trashy buildings. We don't want, I guess, package stores covering the city. We don't want to be saturated with them. But at the same time, I'm a little uncomfortable with us as a government sometime putting in some of these regulations that are so restrictive that it only allows somebody with a lot of money to participate. So I'll just leave it at that because we did discuss it a lot earlier.
Yeah, and all right, does anybody else have any discussion? Okay, I will just say that for the record, you can go back and listen to the work session on that particular item. We did talk about that. I think everyone had a concern that we didn't want to sort of make it impossible for regular people, but we also knew that we had to have some standards because this is the first time we've ever tried to do this, and we want to do the very best we can for it. And I think that, as Ms. McPherson said, there just probably wasn't the support to loosen those restrictions earlier, so that's why we're here. All right, if there's no further discussion, I'll call the vote. All in favor? All opposed? All right, that motion will pass 4-1. All right, let's. Was it? I didn't see two.
Yeah.
Was there two? Where was it at? Ms. Marchman and Ms. McPherson will vote no, so that'll be 3-2. I didn't see that.
You should have known.
Yeah, probably. Well, no, not necessarily.
That's right.
I was going to say, if you're all the way down here where I am, you can see all the hands go up.
Oh, you want me to move down there?
No, I'm okay.
All right, let's move on now. So we took up C7 in the first position, so now we'll take up C1, which is ALP 1-2022, alcohol license permit application from Next Gen Nexus Inc., DBA Junior Food Store. There'll be a public hearing on this item. Nairi, if you will come up, introduce this item for us.
Nairi Simpson, licensing specialist. We are here with a request for alcohol permit approval for Junior Food Store located 516 Dallas Highway. And I want to note there is a history of alcohol approvals. This request is initiated due to a change of business ownership.
Okay, council, this is an ownership change for the Junior Food Store. Do you have any questions for Nairi before I have a public hearing on this item? All right, no questions. All right, let me do a public hearing on this item. Is there anyone here who would like to speak for or against this alcohol license permit for Junior Food Store? All right, seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing, and I'll revert back to council. Is there a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion.
All right, Mr. Carter?
I'll
I'll make
second.
a motion
Well,
to,
let's let him read it.
I don't have one on,
Oh, well, hang on just a second.
Are you going to give them the spiel?
Oh, well,
Yeah.
are they here? Is the applicant here? I'm sorry.
Yes.
All right, applicant, why don't you come forward? We haven't done this in a little while.
No, we don't have.
And we have the distinction of having our regular city attorney in the room this time, and if I remember correctly, we had Mr. Avery last time, and he got the honor of doing this. So before we actually motion this and take a vote on it, I'm going to ask the city attorney to give you a little what for.
Yeah, good afternoon, sir.
Thank you for having me here.
You understand here in the city of Villa Rica that we treat alcohol-related laws very seriously.
Yes, sir.
And you understand that your employees are charged with making sure that they do not sell any alcoholic beverages to underage people.
Yes, sir.
And
Clearly.
that our police department does occasionally conduct sting operations to see if those laws are being followed.
Yes.
And that you're going to be held to very strictly to those standards.
Yes, I have read the ordinance.
All right. Well, good luck to you then.
Sure. Thank you.
All right, good enough. Okay, now did we find it? Are we ready, Mr. Carter?
I can't find it on my screen, but it's up here behind me.
Okay.
I'll have to do it this way. All right, I'll make a motion to approve the request for the approval of an alcohol license permit for the specified business Nexus Incorporated DBA Junior Food Store.
Okay, I have a motion to approve the request for approval of an alcohol license permit for the specified business Nexus Inc., doing business as Junior Food Store. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, I have a second from Ms. McCoy. Is there any discussion? All in favor? All opposed? Did you vote?
I did.
How'd you vote?
Favor.
In favor. All right, that'll pass 4-1.
Sure. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. All right, let me move on to
I don't know where
C2.
the cotton picking motion went.
VA-0222, Mirror Lake Boulevard at Shoreline Parkway, townhome variances request from PLG LLC within the Fuqua Development. There'll be a public hearing on this item. Ron, if you will go ahead and
Yes, good afternoon.
present that item.
Yes, good afternoon, Mayor and Council and members of the public. We have an application tonight for specifically the townhome pod of what we're commonly calling the Fuqua development on Mirror Lake Boulevard. There's a total of 5 variances that they're requesting. This parcel was rezoned back in October of last year, 2021. It was a split zoning to SFA, single family attached, multifamily 2, MF2, and and a C2 zone, commercial medium density. Now they're coming back, and again, specifically for the townhomes, for 5 variances. So earlier today, early this morning, you guys must received an email from me detailing that they had a total of 8 variances that they applied for, but that has now been reduced down to 5. We had some townhome regulations that we prepared for this meeting that we decided to pull back on, and they designed around those potential regulations potentially coming into effect. And being that is pulled, it has now caused a bit of a cascading effect that has therefore removed 3 of those variances. So, Mayor, I can detail. Do you want me to detail each of these individual ones, or?
Well, so you said there were a total of 8.
Yes, there was 8, and now it's down to 5.
And now there's 5. They removed 3 of those. So I don't see, because it hasn't been updated
4 and 5. They're gone.
on the work session.
So 2, 4, 5.
All right, but because those have been pulled, I don't see any reason for you to present the 3.
Oh, no, I meant the remaining 5.
Yes, I do want you to briefly go through each of those.
Sure. The first variance they're applying for is related to the garage doors orientation of the proposed townhomes. Our code section reads, no primary or accessory building shall have service doors, garage doors, loading doors, or similar service entrances opening toward or oriented to the street or city road. The applicant has indicated that they had some pretty extreme topographic and grading challenges on the property that has necessitated that change. The second variance is Table 4.4 residential lot standards. They're requesting to go from a 24-foot wide product to a 22-foot wide product. And there was no hardships that were actually that were presented for that one that I'm aware of. So I'd like to I guess have the applicant kind of address that at some point. Third is 75-foot impervious buffer. They're looking for an encroachment of 42,883 square feet. And again, that's because of some of the topographic and grading challenges. 50-foot non-disturbance buffer. They're looking for an encroachment of 11,052 square feet for those same reasons, topographic issues. And the last variance is for the landscape buffer that's required between our single-family attached and C2 zoning districts. There's a 30-foot buffer, we call a Type 3 buffer, that's required. And they're looking to still have 30 feet, but it would be split across that zoning line or zoning boundary, so it'll be 15 feet on each side instead of 30 feet on each side.
Okay. Is the applicant here?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I think what we probably should do is let the applicant talk about these variance requests, and then we will see if council has questions for applicant or staff. We'll go through that process, and then we'll do a public hearing, and then we will come back and touch again. So because you have so many of them, this is a little unusual. So let's go ahead and come up, and I'm going to have you introduce yourself and then talk to us about each of these variance requests.
Sure.
All right.
My name is Jane Myers. I'm here on behalf of PLG LLC, which is the applicant for the townhome pod. We are the contract purchaser with Fuqua for the proposed mixed-use development. First of all, I want to thank you all for having us tonight, and also to staff for working with us over the past couple months as we work through the design portion of this. Pod, as Ron mentioned, this site does have some pretty extreme site constraints that we had to take into account. Firstly, it is bound on the south or on the west side with the stream that covers both the west and the south perimeters of both of the pods. We have to take into account the future Mirror Lake Connector Road that will be on the agenda for later tonight, as well as some severe topography challenges. To be more specific, the topo drops 90 feet from east to west, as well as 65 feet from north to south on the northern pod. And if you go to the site plan, you'll see there's basically the Mirror Lake Connector Road basically bisects the townhome pod into what we're calling a north pod and a south pod. So the north pod, those are the topo changes that I just mentioned. In addition, the south pod, the center area of that section is the high site, and then depending on which direction you go to, it drops anywhere from 10 to 35 feet around the center portion of the site. One of the other challenges, not only with the grading and the topo, is that on that northern townhome pod, we are already having to design 4 retaining walls to essentially hold that up that range from 10 to 35 feet in size. In addition to evidence of rock on site that we're having to now work through as we're getting our due diligence reports back. So the first request has to do with the orientation of the garages, and the main driver behind that and the rationale behind that is because of the topography changes. We were not able to fit in any rear entry product per the original zoning ordinance. So that is our rationale for requesting that variance. I'm happy to kind of go through each one individually or run through and then kind of ask feedback.
Well, I'll let you do either way you want, but I don't mind if you just go ahead and hit each one of them.
Sure.
And then we go for the questions.
Okay, that's fine.
Let's try that.
Okay, so that's the first one. The second one, as Ron mentioned, is a reduction in the minimum front facade going from 24 feet to 22 feet. And the reason for that, while it does take into account all the site constraints that I mentioned, it also just offers us a greater flexibility in terms of product to be able to meet a greater market demand when the units go vertical and come online. Thirdly, we're asking for impacts into the 75-foot buffer. In total, we're looking at 42,883 square foot of impacts into that 75-foot buffer. Of those total impacts, only 739 linear feet are going to be permanent structures, which are going to be caused by the retaining walls. All other impacts are going to be due to grading for the site. Fourthly, PLG, we're requesting 11,052 square feet of impacts into the 50-foot non-disturbance buffer. And of those, call it 11,000 square feet, 202 linear feet are going to be attributed to the retaining wall impacts in permanent structures. Lastly, we are asking for a variance on the landscape buffer yards between the single-family attached zoning classification and the C2 boundary line. Instead of having 30 feet on each side, we're proposing to split the difference with Fuqua and have 15 feet on the SFA side and 15 feet on the C2 parcel.
Okay, Ron, am I reading this correctly that these that she just presented are 1, 3, 6, 7, and 8?
That's correct.
Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
And that each of these have a staff recommendation of approval?
No.
Which one?
Actually,
Hold
number-
on. Which one does not? I can only hear one person at a time.
Sure, it would be number 3.
Okay.
Which
That's a recommended denial?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, the others are all recommended approvals.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, council, does anybody have any questions for the applicant or for Ron on either 1, 3, 6, or 7? I'm sorry, 1, 3, 6, 7, or 8?
Mayor,
Yes, sir, Mr. Momptahan.
I'm sorry, what was your, I apologize, what was your name again?
Jane Myers.
Jane Myers, okay. Ms. Myers, so when Mr. Fuqua came to us in October and sought zoning approval for this property, he presented us typical lot layouts from a group called Pine Grove Communities. Are you familiar with Pine Grove Communities?
I'm familiar in the fact that those were the elevations that were submitted on behalf of the rezoning.
Could you get a little closer to the mic?
Oh, sorry. Yep.
That's okay.
But Pine Grove Communities is not your
It is
client?
not, no.
Okay. So so pretty much a good amount of the proposed typical townhomes that we were provided for a rear entry product. Was your client involved at all with Mr. Fuqua's exploration of this project whatsoever?
I was not, so I can't speak to them. In reviewing the site plan that was a part of the rezoning as well as the elevations, as it relates to the site plan that was specifically in front of you guys during the rezoning, it was actually for 20-foot wide townhome that was all front entry. And then the elevations did have a mix of sizes that ranged from 22 to I think 30 feet and had a mix of both front entry and rear entry. And that's just based on my review of the applications and in discussion with them.
So what would be your client's proposed mix of the townhome widths?
We are proposing 100% 22-foot wide front entry product.
Okay. And any proposed rear entry whatsoever?
No.
Okay. What about, I think that's all I have right now. I might have something else.
Okay, so if I'm reading it correctly, you really just took up number 1. Did you have anything
And the
on?
townhome, and the widths.
Okay, which
So
number
which
was
was 3.
Okay, so you took up 1 and 3. Do you have anything on 6, 7, or 8?
On 6, 7, and 8, not really, no.
Okay, anybody else? All right, Ms. McCoy?
On number 3, how many, reducing it by 2 feet, how many extra units is that putting?
It comes out to about 20 units, 20 total lots.
Is that all, Ms. McCoy? All right, anybody else? Ms. McPherson, Mr. Carter, Ms. Marchman, okay. All right, so let me now do a public hearing, if that's okay? And then we'll come back and do this again before we see where we're at. Okay, I'm going to open this item up for a public hearing. Is there anyone here who would like to speak for or against these variances? All right, if you will come up, give us your name and address for the record. We'll give you 3 minutes. Oh, well, let's wait till you get up there. I can maybe hear you, but, all right, go ahead.
AJ Hoyle, 141 Parkway, Villa Rica, Georgia.
Okay.
Parkway Circle. Initially, when Fuqua came to us, our property is in the picture where the big corner that's cut out of it.
On Punkintown, or actually on Parkway Circle?
Well, we live in the woods right next to what they're building.
Okay.
And they had come to us and said, oh, you guys are going to be tucked in the woods. But now with everything, the encroachments are actually on our land. My husband has the numbers, so I'll let him come up and speak of those. But we're just wondering at what point, because we have sewer easements, we have all kinds of roads and stuff that are already through our land, and we're just wondering at what point we get to keep our land. Because now these encroachments are directly on our land. We are the lot that they are, I don't have the number of it. 176. We are 176. So anyway, so we're opposed to it because initially they had told us that we wouldn't even see it. And right now I sit on my porch and listen to construction until 8 o'clock at night already before anything started. So we want something done about that. I don't know if we can sit down with Fuqua or what, but it's not a great it's not a great thing, and we are opposed to them taking our land. So I don't know who we talked to about that, but that's ours.
Okay.
Okay?
All right, thank you.
Sure.
All right. So I'll try to address some stuff at the end, or we'll try to get it through the regular process. But this time is really for you to say what you want to say for or against it, okay? Is there anybody else here who wants to speak for or against? Sir, if you'll come on up. If you'll give us your name and address for the record, we'll give you 3 minutes. I will say that there, no development is going to occur on somebody else's land. That's not going to happen. So if it needs to be adjusted or modified, it will be. But there may be some other concerns that we'll try to get to in a minute. Sir, if you'll give us your name and address for the record.
Clayton Hoyle, 141 Parkway Circle.
All right, go ahead.
So the sections we're really talking about here are 6 and 7 mainly. There's a total of, between the two, 53,935 square feet. Directly of what that's going to affect as our property is concerned is 29,503 square feet. That's roughly 2/3 of an acre. So we bought 5.2 acres because we wanted 5.2 acres. This is something we worked for our entire lives. And this is going to have a lot of water just kind of dumped right into the end of our property. And all the walls and all the stuff that would come in play with that is just going to block the view. Everything that we wanted and bought is just going to be built back up around us. We got out of subdivisions for a reason, and now we have 5 acres right in the middle of another giant subdivision. Mainly what it's coming down to is that this is going to affect a lot of things like wildlife. We have deer, we have turkeys, we've even had a bear come through our property just last year. So that's where we're at. That's what we kind of oppose. And when is it going to stop? You know what I mean? So appreciate your time.
All right, thank you, sir. And I am familiar with the bear that caused a little bit of an uproar, and I got a lot of pictures about it. Okay, is there anybody else who would like to speak for or against this item? Okay. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing portion of this meeting. And I would call the applicant back up, Jane. And I do want you to address those concerns that you just heard from those two people because they are directly impacted
Sure.
because of where they live.
Firstly,
I do want you to get.
Sorry about that. Not
Go
used to
ahead.
speaking into a microphone. I would also have to ask where in location to the site their lot is and their house is so that I can properly address it. If it's
Well-
right,
Well, let's just talk about the larger idea of you building on somebody else's property.
Sure.
And how close these buffers are going to get. Because we can possibly look at their specific site in a minute, but just talk about that for a second.
sure. To kind of reiterate what you said, first and foremost is that we won't and can't develop on land other than what we will own at the time. Not only in addition to that is that we will respect and honor the buffers that the ordinances require, and we'll make sure that we properly maintain those, whether they're landscape buffers or non-disturbance buffers or whatever that may be that abuts to an adjacent property owner. And if there is a mistake during the construction, that we'll mitigate that and correct it as soon as possible.
Okay, so on, let's see, which one is this? Is this, so he's talking about 6 and 7. What is the variance here? I see that it's 42,883 square feet on the impervious buffer. But Ron, what is that varying from? What was the requirement before?
The city does not, because we have a 75-foot impervious buffer, there's nothing that should be encroaching in that area at all. So the starting point here is 0.
Okay. And
Numerically.
They're asking for 42,883 square feet?
Yes.
How
square
many
feet.
linear feet is that?
Ooh,
Well, the impact from one parcel to the next is what I'm talking about, not when you square feet it all up.
Sure. There is a buffer plan that hatches. There is a buffer plan that we included in the application that hatches out the impacts to both the 75-foot as well as the 50-foot buffers so that we can visually see where those impacts are. It's just not on that site plan, it's on another one.
Okay. You got it?
Probably the next one, yes.
All right, let me see if council has any questions for the applicant or for Ron right now. Yep. What do we got?
That's the buffer plan I referred to. So the blue hatched area, that is the area requesting impacts into the 75-foot buffer, and then the pink/purple are the impacts into the 50-foot non-disturbance buffer.
Okay. All right, council, do you have any questions for the applicant or for Ron at this stage?
I do have a question.
All right, Mr. Momptahan.
So part of the conditions for zoning was that they were supposed to submit a survey, if I recall correctly. Bobby, did they submit that? Satisfy that condition? Okay. I mean, so did any of that address this property line overlap issue? Was there any, somebody else's property? Okay.
This is a bit unusual, but do you know the parcel that they're referring to? I mean, because I don't see it on here. I don't see a 5-acre parcel
That's right.
up against.
It's on the north corner, Mayor. Top left-hand corner. It's probably not carved out exactly 5 acres.
Okay. Clayton Hoyle and AJ Hoyle. Does that sound right?
That's it.
All right. So you have a survey, and since you have a survey, we know that they know where the legal property lines are. So, you know, obviously you're assuring us that you won't be on their property, and if you are, you're going to mitigate it for
Correct.
sure. I don't know about this buffer. I would share their concern. The thing is, I know we're not going to be able to eliminate all, you know, of this, you know, the construction noise. A lot of folks around there are going to have to deal with that. But I want to make sure that we do what we can to mitigate that. And I think everybody here is going to want to know that we're doing that. All right. Is there any other questions?
Mayor?
Yes, ma'am. Ms. McPherson?
Mayor, can we tell them who to connect with at City Hall?
Yeah, let's make sure that you reach out to Ron. Ron, before they leave, make sure you give them your contact information. Ron is the person who you would talk to. Is this little fella right over here? Will you stand up? They're looking for you. He's bigger than me. I just say that. All right. Have a seat. Too much attention. Okay. Is there any other questions for the applicant or for staff at this point? Okay. Hearing none, thank you.
Thank you.
Let me revert back to council. So let me ask Avery. I guess David left. Avery, it seems like to me, generally I take these one at a time. And I feel like I probably need to do that here, even though we have this all in one agenda item. Does that sound right to you?
That would be fine, yes.
Yeah, I think that's what I want to do. All right, so unless somebody, let me find the motion at the bottom. Is there a motion?
Yeah, I see the motions, but is Ron going to address them one at a time for us?
Give me just a second. All right, so 1, 3, 6, 7, and 8 is what we're after here.
Correct.
1, 3, 6, 7, and 8. All right. So I'm going to start with, well, Ron's already went through them. Do you have a question for Ron on any of them? Because if you don't, I'm going to ask for a motion on number 1. And then I'm going to do the same thing for 3 and 6 and 7 and 8 and see where we're at. Is that okay with you?
Sure.
All right.
All
So,
right.
well, I didn't know if you, honestly, I didn't know if you had another question for Ron. Okay, so here we are. I'm going to take up item 1 under the motions. Do I have a motion here?
I have a motion.
All right, Ms. McPherson.
And this has to do with which way the doors face, garage doors, accessory doors, that sort of thing.
Yes.
And I'm getting down to the motions. I move to approve the request to be exempt from Section 9.032C of the City of Villa Rica zoning ordinance.
Second.
All right, I have a motion to approve the request to be exempt from Section 9.032C of the City of Villa Rica zoning ordinance. I have a second from Mr. Carter. Is there any discussion?
Yeah, Mayor.
All right, Mr. Montahan.
So I'm going to vote no on this motion. And the reason I'm going to do that is because frankly, we were presented drawings, elevations, proposals, and this council approved them with that in mind. And now they're coming back 6 months later and saying, well, we didn't do our due diligence appropriately. We didn't know what we could actually build. We just gave you the most fanciest, nicest looking product to get you to get through zoning, and now we're here to say we're going to put something else up there. And I think, and I've said it before multiple times, and I was here in October, and I wish I spoke up now, but I've said it multiple times that these developers come in and they present us with site plans that show this, concept plans that show this, elevations that show that, and we think that we could trust them to build the product they actually proposed to us. And in this case, they're not, and they're not going to build that product. And this council is going to permit them to do that. And I personally feel slighted. And so I'll just reiterate that the next time a developer comes in, they show us a bunch of fancy drawings, fancy elevations, we need to make sure that we are getting every single element of what they proposed to us in writing. And I regret that I didn't do that. I'm sorry. And I'm just really irritated by it. But here we are again.
All right. Is there any other discussion? All right, I'm going to call the question. All in favor? All opposed? All right, that will carry 4-1. I'm now going to take up item 3, and that is regarding the reduction in the minimum living area facade width from 24 feet to 22 feet. And do I have a motion on item 3.
Yeah, I move
Mr. Carter.
I move to deny the request to provide 22-foot townhome units instead of 24-foot townhome units as required in Table 4.4.
Second.
All right. I have a motion to deny the request to provide 22-foot townhome units instead of 24-foot townhome units as required in Table 4.4. I have a second from Mr. Momtahan. Is there any discussion?
Mayor, if I may.
Mr. Momtahan.
Again, we were sold bill of goods of townhomes of varying widths, 22 feet, 24 feet, 26 feet, 30 feet. If they came to us today and told us, well, y'all, council, we just need a few of them that are 22 feet, to, you know, maybe do a, what do they call it, a, what's that in the real estate when you have the cheapest house to get the folks in the neighborhood? What do they call that?
I don't know. I'm going to leave that to you.
Okay, yeah. I don't know. I'm sure we have a couple of real estate builders in here that can tell us what that is. They get you in the neighborhood and they, you know, it's really $50,000 more than, but anyway, you know, if they came to us and said, hey, we could do some 22 foots and we're still gonna go with the mix that they gave us back in October, some 30 foot, some 26 foot, some 24 foots, then maybe I would consider saying, sure, I'll give you a couple of 22s. But she told us today that they have no intention whatsoever of building anything that they promised. Nothing at all. And so I will gladly vote to deny this motion. And I hope we have the support of the council on that.
So let me just maybe make a couple of comments about that. Because the mixed product that they brought to us back then included 20 foots, 22 foots, and 24 foots.
I got them
Okay.
right here.
I know, but you left out the 20 feet.
Well, let me
and I think that-
let me
Did you say
verify
20
their
foot?
record was correct.
I'm not sure if they were in the renderings, but the site plan that was attached to the zoning application was based on
Because
20
you reviewed
foot.
the
22
application,
foot.
that's what you
we
told
have
me.
22 foot.
Okay.
Rear entry, by the way. 22 foot rear entry. 22 foot rear entry. 24 foot front entry.
She said the application.
This was the,
So I don't
this
know
is the
exactly what you
application to
have.
rezone property from Fuqua
Right,
Development.
that's the packet.
The
That's
packet
right.
that they supplied us. They put this together. We didn't ask them for this. They proposed this.
So there's
26 foot
there's a motion to deny,
and a 30 foot.
which,
No 20s.
is there any further discussion?
Yeah, just
All right, Ms. McPherson.
Just a question, because I know sometimes there's the application, there's the packet. I know from some other apartments, we'll get things that are conceptual. Can somebody answer the question, and maybe Ron, that would even be for you, between what it is we're getting that is, yes, this is what's going to happen, as compared to things we get that are, say, these are conceptions of what we're looking at, and then we get maybe something that's definite and hard, because I think there might be a little confusion on this, even for myself. So.
Sure. So typically with a rezoning application, you're going to get concept plans. You're going to get, and of course, there's no, at least that I'm aware of, an Avery, please, you can stop me whenever whenever I go off track here, but I don't know of any legal. It's something to hold them, an applicant, to that if it's a concept plan going for a rezoning, unless it's entered into the record, just as Councilman Momtahan has indicated before. So unless the council does that via a condition, that would have to be very specific, but a condition to specific types of elevations or certain site elements that you would like to see. It's fair game to be changed at some point in the future.
In fairness, and I'm not going to speak for the councilwoman, but I believe what she may be referring to is when the conceptual plan is brought forward and the application is brought forward, it can definitely look different when they get to the final engineering and the final product. Once they figure out the topography and figure out what they can do, it can very well, and in most cases, does look different than the original conceptual plan. I think that's what she's referring to, but even if she's not, that's what I'm referring to. that at that stage, you don't know everything that you need to know about the property or the market. You know, you may know more about the market, but the property, you don't spend all of that money up front on the hope and the dream that you get the zoning. And that may have been what she was talking about, may not have been. We have a,
So-
okay.
Yeah, so then
All right.
it's
Ms. McPherson.
conceptual initially, but I can see how if you're looking at pictures and somebody's showing you where you think, oh, this is what's going to happen, so maybe there's something going forward, we need to work on that. I don't know, because it could be,
I
be
just think it's
confusing.
wrong to believe that the developer just intended to scheme you from the beginning. I just don't see that, and I've been in the real estate business for 20-something years. They have a desire to do something that everybody would want and would be appealing, but sometimes you get into it and you just can't do it. I have a personal, story for that, but okay, so is there any further discussion? Because I have a motion to deny this. All right, so I'm going to call the question. So the motion is this: to deny the request to provide 22-foot townhome units instead of 24-foot townhome units as required in Table 4.4. All in favor? All opposed? All right, it's unanimous to deny. Okay, that was also the staff recommendation. So now we will take up number 6. And number 6 is the 75-foot impervious buffer encroachment of 42,883 square feet. Staff recommendation is approval. Would someone like to be recognized for a motion on number 6?
I have a motion.
All right, Ms. McPherson.
I move to approve the encroachment of 42,883 square feet into the 75-foot impervious buffer as indicated on the submitted buffer plan dated March 1, 2022.
All right. I have a motion to approve an encroachment of 42,883 square feet into the 75-foot impervious buffer as indicated on the submitted buffer plan dated March 1st, 2022. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, I have a second from Mr. Carter. Is there any discussion? If there's no discussion, I'll call the question. All in favor? All opposed? All right, that motion will carry 4-1. I'm going to now take up number 7. Number 7 is 50-foot non-disturbance buffer, encroachment of 11,052 square feet. Staff recommendation is approval. Would someone like to be recognized for a motion on number 7? All right. There is no.
I'll move.
All right, Mr. Carter.
I'll move to approve the encroachment of 11,052 square feet into the 50-foot non-disturbance buffer as indicated on the submitted buffer plan dated March 1st, 2022.
All right.
Second.
I have a motion to approve an encroachment of 11,052 square feet into the 50-foot non-disturbance buffer as indicated on the submitted buffer plan dated March 1st, 2022. I have a second from Ms. McPherson. Is there any discussion on this item? If there is not, I'll call the question. All in favor? All opposed? That motion will carry 4-1. I'll now take up item number 8. Item number 8 is Section 7.0512B, landscape buffer yard standards between two dissimilar uses or zoning classifications defined in Table 7.8 requires a Type 3 buffer between the single-family attached SFA and commercial C2 boundary line. A Type 3 buffer yard requires a 30-foot buffer yard. The staff recommendation here is approval. Would someone like to be recognized for a motion on number 8?
Yeah, I'll take it.
All right, Mr. Carter.
I move to approve the request to provide a cumulative 30-foot buffer yard along the boundary line between SFA and C2 parcels with 15 foot on each side of the zone boundary.
Okay, I have a motion to approve the request to provide a cumulative 30-foot buffer yard along the boundary line between SFA and C2 parcels with 15 foot on each side of the zone boundary. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. I go fast, don't I? All right, I have a second from Ms. McPherson. Is there any discussion on this item? All right, if there's no discussion,
Well,
I'll call
Mayor,
the question. All right, Mr.
I'm not
Pump.
really clear what the hardship was on this one, Ron. I mean, could you I'm sorry.
Sure.
What was their alleged hardship?
Let me see here. Hold on one moment.
Because when I read the reasoning, it just sounds like that's just not what they wanted to do.
Well, from my discussions with the applicant, and as we recall, they're creating these boundaries, right, by when they split these properties up for the different nodes or different pods that we're going to have. So, you know, even though this is self-imposed, essentially, it was something that we kind of already knew was going to have to come at some point. So, you know, I guess their reasonings, because once everything is laid out, and Jane, you can correct me also if I'm wrong here, but once everything was actually laid out on the site, they were able to do these distance measurements and kind of go through our code and see what some of these spacing requirements actually are between these different dissimilar zoning districts. So. Once that actually occurred, and once we all took a look at the buffer requirements, it became kind of it's essentially became kind of silly to actually provide buffers for something that's not already there. The point of buffers is for existing uses that are for existing residential or commercial, what have you. Both of these two projects are going to be happening at once, the commercial and the townhome portion. So it begs the question, what is the purpose of the buffer?
Okay, thank you. Ron.
Okay, all right. Any further discussion? I'm gonna
Yes.
call, all right, Ms. McPherson.
I was just going to mention, my understanding from reading through the report and everything on the buffer is they're creating this whole unit together, kind of like a commercial and residential subdivision. And so the separations you might make between coming in to build a grocery store next to a neighborhood is different from these people that are expecting to live 100 yards from the restaurant or whatever. Do you know what I'm saying here?
Right.
And so they're expecting to have things close and walkable, and they know that coming into it. That was
It's a
my
mixed-use
understanding.
development, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It mixes, it's kind of like when you have apartments above commercial, and you choose to live in the apartment above a store, but you know that going into it.
That's right.
Okay, I'm going to call the question. All in favor? All right, that's unanimous. Okay, so I would make sure that you get them your contact information and make sure that you all work with these property owners. Make sure that you mitigate their concerns. Okay, let's go ahead and move on to C3. VA-03-22 Mirror Lake Connector Stream Buffer Variance. This item will also have a public hearing. Who's presenting this? Bobby? All right, Mr. Elliott, go ahead.
Teresa, pull that application up if you don't mind. Mr. Mayor, this is an application by the city to the city on some stream buffer variances to get this roadway in. And when she gets that, the buffer shot of that roadway, you can really keep going. One more, the big screen. That's it. Mr. Mayor, if you can look, this alignment of this roadway's got an 80-foot right-of-way, and the alignment's pretty much been set, not only on the Mirror Lake Boulevard end, but on the Cleghorn end as well. You'll notice along the north section of this roadway, all the blue there, there's several retaining walls that are going to have to be built inside the 75-foot impervious buffer and some in the 50-foot undisturbed buffer to hold that cart path up and part of that roadway. The grading on that road is such that the downward slopes are so wide. The area that you see there on the far left, they've got to pipe 185 feet of that stream to get that roadway in there. So that being the case, this application is for a total impacted area in the 75-foot impervious buffer encroachment of 20,939 square feet, and in the 50-foot undisturbed buffer encroachment total area of 8,564 square feet in order to get this roadway in. They've also got to do a state buffer variance of the 25-foot buffer that will come later. But that's what this application is.
Okay. All right, council, do you have any questions for Bobby? All right. If there are no questions, I need to do a public hearing on this. So I'm going to open this up for a public hearing. Is there anyone here who would like to speak for or against this item, this stream buffer variance? All right, seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing. I'll revert back to staff and council. Council, does anyone have any questions on these two variances? Okay, if there are none, would someone like to be recognized for a motion? Okay,
I have a motion.
all right. Ms. McPherson,
I move to approve the request from the city of Villa Rica to encroach into the 75-foot stream buffer by 2,939 square feet as shown in the buffer plan dated March 1st, 2022.
okay.
That's
Correct that to
20,000.
20,929.
Oh,
Okay,
what did
I'll
I
read
say?
it that way. Hang on
2,000.
a second.
Oh, I'm sorry.
All right, I have a motion from Ms. McPherson to approve the request from the city of Villa Rica to encroach into the 75-foot stream buffer by 20,939 square feet as shown in the buffer plan dated March 1, 2022. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a second from Mr. Carter. Is there any discussion? All right, I'll call the question. All in favor? All right, that's unanimous. Would someone like to be recognized for a motion on the second part?
I'll take it.
Mr. Carter.
I move to approve the request from the city of Villa Rica to encroach into the 50-foot stream buffer by 8,564 square feet as shown in the buffer plan dated March 1st, 2022.
All right, I have a motion from Mr. Carter to approve the request from the city of Villa Rica to encroach into the 50-foot stream buffer by 8,564 square feet as shown in the buffer plan dated March 1, 2022. Is there a second? All right.
Second.
I have a second from Ms. McPherson. Is there any discussion? I'll call the question. All in favor? All right, that's unanimous. Okay, who's up next? Ron again? All right, we're going to take up VA-04-22 Mirror Lake Boulevard at Shoreline Parkway, commercial and multifamily variances request from Fuqua Acquisitions 2 LLC. This item will also have a public hearing. Ron, would you present this item?
Yes, sir. VA-04-22 is an application from Fuqua Acquisitions 2 for 12 variances from city regulations. I guess I'll go through all of these again really quickly here for you guys. They're applying from section 7.05 landscaping standards. It's a 30-foot buffer that's required between SFA and commercial medium density zones. They're looking to provide a 15-foot wide buffer. Section 4.04 lot standards is the second one. Reduce side yard setback from 40 feet to 20 feet for multifamily MF2 zone. Section 7.05 landscaping standards reduce the parking landscaping strip requirement from 10 feet from the property line for each C2 zone property to 10-foot total between the two properties. Section 4.04 lot standards reduce the minimum lot size for commercial C2 from 2.5 acres to 0.75 acres. Number 5, section 7.05 table 7.8 and table 7.9 landscaping standards to reduce the buffer between existing residential and new commercial medium density C2 from 75 feet to 20 feet. Section 7.13 open space requirement to change the location of the open space. Section 7.02 off-street parking and loading to increase the minimum amount of parking spaces from 2.61 spaces to 4.5 spaces for the shopping center and increase the maximum amount of parking spaces from 2.86 parking spaces per 1,000 square feet to 5.5 spaces per 1,000 square feet for the shopping center. Section 4.04 lot standards increase density in the MF2 zone from 19.3 dwelling units an acre to 25 dwelling units an acre. Section 9.03, non-residential design standards, reduction in the ground floor retail transparency on ground level from 75% to 40%. Number 10, section 7.05 landscaping standards, remove required 30-foot landscape buffer between C2 and existing residential MF2. Number 11 is to reduce the minimum living area for multifamily MF2 zone properties units from 950 square feet to 900 square feet. And lastly is for a master sign plan that has additional renderings that have been supplied for you in your packets as well. So they're looking for an approval to their master sign plan.
Okay. Wow.
And the applicant is here to help us with this.
Okay. Okay, let's bring the applicant up.
Sure.
I'll
Kim?
let you, I
Good
guess,
evening.
talk about these. Give us your name, and address. Introduce yourself, and then I'm gonna let you talk about these, and then I'll see if council has any questions.
Sure, okay.
All right, go ahead.
My name is Kim Wyatt. I'm with Fuquay Development. Before we get started, I was going to offer to address some of the items that have been discussed previously. Would that be acceptable, or?
I think if we've already taken it up, let's just go ahead.
Just
and
move forward,
on.
okay.
I'm sorry, what was I didn't catch your name, I
That's
apologize.
fine. It's Kim Wyatt, W-Y-A-T-T. Okay, moving forward. So, yeah, I'm here presenting the commercial arm of this multi-use development that we're working on. We've been working on the project now for a good long time, and Ron has been an excellent support and, giving us all the information that we need and helping us through this process. We are excited to put the project together. It is planned to be, it's going to have, pedestrian accessibility across the board. You're going to be able to live. You're going to have access to amenities. You're going to have this newly constructed connector road that eventually is going to offer all kinds of opportunities and options for the residents. And as well with that construction of that road was also going to have the golf cart path and then another trail. And there's a lot of things in this work, a lot of details into this overall development that are going to make it a really great place in space in and of its own. I wanted to just talk about the variance requests in general, and that, yes, I think it was mentioned earlier that we are taking kind of a holistic approach to the development, and that some of these, we were looking at the Villa Rica Code and the lot standards, trying to figure out how they can best, work together and complement each other and makes the most sense for what we believe Villa Rica is also looking for in the development of this type. So that's, and I'm happy to go through one at a time and kind of discuss our reasonings if that's where we need to go.
Well, let's do this in the interest of time, since there's 12 of them. Let me I appreciate your comments. Let me see if council has any questions first. They've had a chance to look at this, and it may be that some of them don't require a lot of discussion. It may be that some require a lot.
Fair enough.
So does anybody have any questions for the applicant? All right, Mr. Montahan.
Yes, so on the MF2 zone, for the apartment complex, what is your proposed unit mix on bedrooms?
Oh, I'm sorry. Right now, I don't have that off the top of my head. I think we're still in design. We don't necessarily know what we're building. We're still actually looking at the site as far as some of the comments earlier, as far as the topo, as far as the actual design of how much land is going to be left available for us to be able to develop, which also goes into kind of our looking for the additional density there. So that's so we don't know the mix yet. That's just we're not as far down the road with on the apartments as we are on the commercial.
So how many units are you proposing then, total?
I think right now, again, it's changing.
Are these, the items we're dealing with here are landscaping, right?
No, section number 8.
Yeah, there's a unit. We're asking to.
Number 8.
Yes, sir.
Increased density in the MF2. Okay.
Yeah.
If you would cite which one, so
I'm
I
sorry.
can get down to it.
Sure, I'm
Because
sorry.
actually, when I was looking at 3. All right, go ahead.
Okay, so, and then my next question, so on the parking one,
Yes, sir.
and I'll try to find it for the mayor, and I apologize.
That's okay. It's number 7.
Number 7, so I skipped that, I'm sorry, Mayor. So you guys are actually asking to have more parking than what the ordinance requires. Is that correct?
Yeah, well,
Because usually it's the opposite.
Yeah,
So-
the ordinance, and that's true. So the ordinance, the way it's written, it's based on the actual uses that are going to be coming to the development. And as of right now, we don't necessarily know what the mix is. So in order to move forward with site design, we have to kind of make, we need to make some assumptions, and we need to know that we can live within those assumptions. So what we did was we took a look at the center as a whole and said, if we have X amount of restaurants and this amount of retail and this service, it can fall within these parameters. For us to be able to go to market and to attract, who we may need, who would be, pretty parking sensitive, we just wanted to know kind of what we were working with. So that's why we went ahead and presented our own kind of parameters for the site that we were hoping everybody could just be comfortable with and that we could be comfortable with. And then when we go and try to figure out who the new users are going to be and, what the tenants and, how they're going to work together, we would have some.
So if you're trying to increase the minimum amount of parking, but why do you need a variance to increase the minimum amount of parking if you think you're going to go over that threshold anyway?
Exactly. It was just basically to protect everyone in the room, so we would know that we're agreeing to stay within these parameters. Not agreeing, but we are saying we would like to stay within these parameters. Is this acceptable? Because the way the code is written right now, it's dependent on the use. So if you have if we had a large family restaurant that's going to have hundreds of seats, that could be an extremely high parking user, and we could end up needing being way over the maximums for the city or way under the maximum. So we're just putting this together to try to present this.
I just, one of my concerns is I don't want to see a sea of parking lots if we can avoid it. I've already and I haven't spoken to, I've been meaning to talk to Ron about this, but my concern is that we may actually have too much parking in some parts of the city, in our shopping centers and so forth, where you just driving down the road and you just see a sea of parking lots. So I understand where you're coming from, but to me, especially because this is supposed to be a pedestrian-centric kind of development. So I thought, you'd be asking for a waiver to reduce the parking that you wanted,
Right.
not so much to increase it. Okay, thank you.
Is that all?
Well, I'm sorry, can I just go back? I mean, would you, since you don't know the proposed number of units for the multifamily, would you be willing to stipulate or condition certain maximums on the bedroom types or the bedroom numbers?
I don't think I can do that right now. We literally don't know what we're planning to build there quite yet, so.
Okay.
I would hesitate to do that. So there's a lot of thought that goes into exactly what we're going to build. There's demographics run. There's a lot of intelligence that kind of comes back to us and says, this is what was going to make the most sense. But then we've got to marry that up with the actual site we have, the access and the need, and then how the rest of the development is kind of setting up. So it's just too premature for me right now to say.
Since it's kind of premature, do you think maybe asking for these variances at this time may be premature, though, because you don't seem to know your unit mix or your unit? You're asking for a variance for 25 dwelling units per acre, but you don't know how many dwelling units you're going to propose.
No, well, not exactly, but no.
Right.
For us, we know that this is we do need the increase.
So you have an idea then of what your unit number
It would be
be.
25 per acre, yes.
Okay.
I just don't know the number off the top of my head. I'm sorry.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay, all right. Anybody else have any questions for Ms. McPherson?
I was just going to say one thing that was helpful to me, even though it took hours to get through this, is we probably don't need for you to give your reasoning because it's in here in the report, the reasoning from you all on why you asked for these variances. And here's just one example. I actually did check this one off for mine. Of course, I still had some confusion. I called Ron. So Ron and I spent some time on the phone if I didn't understand something or needed more clarity. And I'm just going to read one. The applicant proposes to reduce the required 75-foot buffer between the commercial and existing residential to a 20-foot undisturbed buffer plus 20-foot planted landscape buffer with an 8-foot fence. And then according to the applicant, which would be you all, there is significant topographical change between the project and the resident parcel. Installing a buffer yard to the property line will require construction activities, including large equipment in close proximity to the adjacent residents. Currently building floor elevation of the northernmost out parcel is proposed to be 15 to 20 foot higher than the existing adjacent residence on Parkway Circle in Punkintown. Now, there's some others that explain this, but the reason this helped me is because I actually do have property over there. My house is opposite side of the street. I'm not too far from you all with my rental home, so we'll probably be impacted. They bought the house next to us as part of the property they have, next to our rental, okay? So I understand it sounds like there's a drop between where the residential property and yours, and that to do this landscape would require that equipment to get a lot closer. So it's still getting buffer, it's still getting landscape, and then it's doing a fence instead of the equipment coming in real close. So does that sound right?
Yeah. So I think the way I believe the code reads is that it's a planted buffer. So which means we would have the ability to go in and do whatever we needed, grading and impact all the way to the property line, and then go back with replanting.
Yeah, it says 20 undisturbed and then
and
20
so
planted and a
correct.
fence.
So our proposal is, as opposed to the 75 feet, is to go in with 20 foot undisturbed, which we leave as is, and then a 20 foot buffer, and then 20 foot planted. So then there's a little bit of, there's a distance between the residents and the construction activities, and yet there's still 20 feet of, a planted buffer for separation.
And some of the others, I think, had to do with sitting back from the road. You guys wanted, and forgive me, but I did all this on Thursday, and I've tried to keep them all in my head. It's almost impossible. Not set back so far because you want the porch as a front yard, kind of that pedestrian-friendly little neighborhood-type feel.
Exactly. So the intention for the multifamily is to be up on the entrance, the street entrance there, and have some parallel parking, and have more of a, we call it an urban style or an urban-esque kind of entrance there, where you've got parallel parked cars and then landscape islands and sidewalks and paths up to the multifamily. And so what we're asking, what we're seeking is relief from the 30-foot buffer that would mandate basically a traditional yard and separation between those two things.
Okay, all right, Mr. Carter, Ms. Marchman, Ms. McCoy, anybody else have any?
Mayor, I'm sorry.
All right.
Bye. Okay, so I took a look at the site plan here, and it says apartment tract future phase, and it's really small because this is only on 11.17, but it says 9.92 acres and 251 units, which actually comes out to be more than 25 units per acre. So if you take the 9.92 and you multiply it by 25 units, you get 248.125. So lucky to the person who lives in the 1.25 unit.
Thank you.
So with 248 units, just in your other projects, when you have 248 units, what kind of bedroom unit mix do you use in those projects?
I would say
generally,
it's primarily 1 and 2 bedroom, a few 3, but not many.
1, 2 bedroom, and a few 3. I mean, just ballpark.
And I'm not, yes, in other developments. Although I don't know that that's really what would be planned for here. I think it'll depend on whatever product makes the most sense. But yeah, typically.
Okay. So, would you agree to a 5 or 10% cap on your 3-bedroom units if we approve the
a cap on
increase
on the 3 bedrooms? Yes, sir.
Okay. So you would agree to like a 5% cap on the units for the 3 bedrooms? Thank you.
Okay, all right. I think we've been through this. So So again, we got 12 of them, so I'm gonna do these one at a time. I think there probably is a better way to do this, but my guess is if there's opposition, then it makes it very difficult to have streamlined this in any way. So I'm gonna do these one at a time, just like I did before. So let's take these up one at a time. Is there anyone who would like to be recognized for a motion on item 1
I'll
of this?
take it.
All right, Mr. Carter.
I move to approve the request to provide a 15-foot landscape buffer instead of a 30-foot landscape buffer as required in section 7.05 landscaping standards of the Villa Rica zoning ordinance.
All right, I have a motion to approve the request to provide a 15-foot landscape buffer instead of a 30-foot landscape buffer as required in section 7.05 landscaping standards of the Villa Rica zoning ordinance. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, I have a second from Ms. McPherson. Is there any discussion? I'll call the question. All in favor? All right, that is unanimous. Who would like to be recognized for a motion on number 2?
I've got to find the motions.
Oh,
All right, Mr.
okay.
Carter.
I move to approve the request to reduce the side yard setback from 40 foot as required in section 4.04, table 4.4 of the zoning ordinance to 20 feet for the MF2 zone.
All right, I have a motion to approve the request to reduce the side yard setback from 40 feet as required in section 4.04, table 4.4 of the zoning ordinance to 20 foot for the MF2 zone. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a second from Ms. McPherson. Is there any discussion? I'll call the question. All in favor? That is unanimous. Who would like to be recognized for a motion on the third part?
I'd be recognized if I could find them. I've gone through so many pages.
All right, Mr. Carter.
Okay.
Let's get
Number 3. I move to approve the request to provide a cumulative 10-foot parking landscape strip instead of the required 10-foot strip for each C2 zone property.
All right, I have a motion to approve the request to provide a cumulative 10-foot parking landscaping strip instead of the required 10-foot strip for each C2 zone property. Is there a second?
Second.
A second from Ms. McPherson. Is there any discussion? I'll call the question. All in favor? All right, that is unanimous. Would someone like to be recognized for item number 4?
I'll take item 4.
All right, Ms. McPherson.
I move to approve the reduction of the minimum lot size in the C2 zone from 2.5 acres to 0.75 acres.
Second.
I have a motion to approve the reduction of the minimum lot size in the C2 zone from 2.5 acres to 0.75 acres. I have a second from Mr. Carter. Is there any discussion? I'll call the question. All in favor? All opposed? That will pass 4-1. All right. Would someone like to be recognized for item 5?
I have it.
Go ahead.
I move to approve the reduction of the buffer between existing residential and new commercial medium density C2 from 75 feet to 20 feet.
All right, I have a motion to approve the reduction of the buffer between existing residential and new commercial medium density C2 from 75 foot to 20 foot. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Carter is a second. Is there any discussion?
Mayor,
Mr. Moptahan.
so I think just the reasonings here said that they were going to leave a 20-foot undisturbed and then plant a 20-foot planted buffer, so with an 8-foot privacy fence. And I would ask if we can amend the motion to include those provisions that they've agreed to pursuant to the reasoning.
Okay, give me just a minute. Let me go back and look at number 5. You're saying in their reasoning, you would ask Mr. Carter to amend his motion to say what?
That the owner, applicant, developer agrees that in lieu of the 75-foot buffer, that they're going to leave a 20-foot undisturbed buffer and plant a 20-foot planted buffer with a fence between the commercial C2 parcel and the residence, and that the 20-foot undisturbed buffer will distance the residence. Well, wait, there was a part about there about a fence. I just missed that. I skipped a line. I'm sorry. Leave a 20-foot undisturbed buffer and plant a 20-foot planted buffer with an 8-foot fence between commercial C2 parcel and residence. I think I skipped the 8-foot fence part.
So are you essentially asking Mr. Carter to amend his motion to include the reasons as stipulations in 5?
Well, what their proposal, they propose that in lieu of doing the 75-foot buffer, they're going to do a 20-foot undisturbed
Mr. Carter,
and
are
a
you?
20-foot planted buffer with an 8-foot
Yeah,
fence.
that's what it says, that they request approval of 20-foot undisturbed buffer and a planted 20-foot planted buffer and an 8-foot fence between C2 and the residence. Yes, I'll amend it.
Mr. Mayor, it would
Yes,
be
sir.
a good idea if those are conditions that the applicant is agreeable with, to get the applicant to agree to that on the record.
Yeah, well, first, let me ask Mr. Carter if he's interested in amending his motion to do that.
Yes.
Okay, well, hang on a second. So, Madam Applicant, would you come up? It is a fair question to ask if you would be amenable to that, to those as being conditions that you heard Mr. Moptahan
Yes.
read off.
Right, it's
Okay. It was so long that I can't remember it, but it's because it's a paragraph in here. It's not his fault. Okay, so Mr. Carter, you agreed to amend your motion?
I agree to amend the motion as per the requirements they said they agreed to, yes.
All right, so that, I like that. All
Can
right.
can I ask for
Ms.
clarification? That was in y'all's reasoning, so it was your plan to do that anyway. It's just that now we'll have it in the motion, correct? Because it was the plan, because I'm reading it here. Okay, all right, good.
Correct. So when they come back in about 6 months and develop and say, oh, we can't do that, it'd actually be in written writing that said they were going to do it.
Okay. So Mr. Carter has a motion. It's been amended as per the discussion here. Is there a second?
Second.
Oh,
All right. I have a second, probably
Had
from
my
Mr.
share.
Moptahan.
okay.
So is there any further discussion? All right. I'll call the question. All in favor? All right. That's unanimous. All right. Would someone like to be recognized for number 6?
I move to approve the relocation of all commercial open space to a centralized location on a single C2 zoned lot.
All right, I have a motion to approve the relocation of all commercial open space to a centralized location on a single C2 zoned lot. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a second from Mr. Carter. Is there any discussion? If not, I'll call the question. All in favor? All right, that's unanimous. Would someone like to be recognized for number 7?
Sure.
Mr. Carter.
I move to approve an increase in the minimum amount of parking spaces from 2.61 spaces to 4.5 spaces for the shopping center, and increase the maximum amount of parking spaces from 2.86 parking spaces per 1,000 square feet to 5.5 spaces per 1,000 square feet for the shopping center.
Okay, I have a motion to approve an increase in the minimum amount of parking spaces from 2.61 spaces to 4.5 spaces for the shopping center, and increase the maximum amount of parking spaces from 2.86 parking spaces per 1,000 square feet to 5.5 spaces per 1,000 square feet for the shopping center. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a second from Ms. McPherson. Is there any discussion?
Mayor,
Not all
I'm
right.
sorry.
Mr. Moptahan.
I apologize. I should have caught this earlier when we were talking about the parking. I'm looking at this master site plan, overall site plan, and I don't see any kind of landscaping inside of the actual parking lot area, primarily for the strip center. Ron, there you are.
Well, this,
I'm sorry,
Yeah,
real quick,
this
I
is
apologize. I just wanted,
a little out of order. We
Okay.
need to move on. I'm gonna go ahead and allow this because we need to get through it. Sure.
Thank you, Mayor. What is our requirement on parking lots? I mean, do we permit any kind of landscaping inside of them in the ordinance? Or does
Yes.
it require that
Yes,
already?
we require landscaping to be located in certain, are you talking about aisles specifically? Like aisle
Right, like to kind of break up the
landscaping?
monotony of cars.
Yep, we require that.
Okay.
I believe it's after every 10 spaces, there needs to be an island, something to that effect.
Excellent, thank you. Thank you,
Okay,
Mayor.
all right, is there any further discussion? All right, if not, I'll call the question. All in favor? All right, that's unanimous. Would someone like to be recognized for number 8?
Mayor, I would like to be recognized
All
for
right,
number 8.
Mr. Moptahan.
I make a motion to approve the request to increase the density in the MF2 zone from 19.3 dwelling units per acre to 25 dwelling units per acre on the condition that the owner, developer, applicant agrees to cap the 3-bedroom units of the multifamily apartment to 5% of the total units.
Okay, Madam Applicant, I know you answered this earlier. I'm just going to ask you again. Is that something that you're agreeable to? Okay. All right. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. So let me try to do this. I have a motion to approve the request to increase density in the MF2 zone from 19.3 dwelling units per acre to 25 dwelling units per acre on the condition that the development have a cap of 5% 3-bedroom units. Is that fair?
That the owner, developer, applicant agreed to, yes.
Okay. And I have a second from Mr. Carter. Is there any discussion? All right. If not, I'll call the question. All in favor? All right, that's unanimous. Would someone like to be recognized for item number 9? That's okay. Number 9. Anybody?
Okay. I move to approve the reduction in ground floor retail transparency on the ground level from 75% to 40%.
All right, I have a motion to approve the reduction in ground floor retail transparency on the ground level from 75% to 40%. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, I have a second from Ms. Marchman. Is there any discussion? I'll call the question. All in favor? All right, that's unanimous. What about number 10?
Okay. I move to remove the requirement to provide a 30-foot landscape buffer between C2 and the existing residential MF2.
All right, I have a motion to remove the requirement to provide a 30-foot landscape buffer between C2 and existing residential MF2. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a second from Ms. Marchman. Believe me, I'm with you. I am right with you. Is there any discussion? I'll call the question. All in favor? All opposed? All right, that will carry 3-1. Does anybody want to take number 11?
Sure.
Mr. Carter.
I move to reduce the minimum living space area permitted in the MF2 zone from 950 square feet to 900 square feet.
All right, I have a motion to reduce the minimum living area permitted in the MF2 zone from 950 square feet to 900 square feet. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, I have a second from Ms. McPherson. Is there any discussion? If not, I'll call the question. All in favor? All opposed? All right, that will carry 4-1. And finally, number 12. Who can do it?
I can do it.
All right, Mr. Carter.
I move to approve the master signage plan as indicated on the submitted master signage plan dated February 23, 2022.
All right, let's hold on just a second. Let the train have the floor. All right, I have a motion to approve the master signage plan as indicated on the submitted master signage plan dated February 23, 2022. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Ms. McPherson. Is there any discussion? I'll call the question. All in favor? All right, that is unanimous. Okay. Woo! That is exhausting. There has got to be a better way to do this. You guys have brought a lot to us. My goodness. Okay. Let's see where we're at now. Oh, these folks have been waiting all night for this. All right, VA-05-22, 14911 Veterans Memorial Highway variance from section 4.04, table 4.4. This item will also have a public hearing. Ron, introduce this item.
Yes, this is applicant Larry Boggs, VA-05-22. He's applying for a side yard setback variance in the I-2 zone, which currently requires a 50-foot side yard setback, and they're proposing a 20-foot side yard setback. As we went over already in the work session, the property is being subdivided and reparceled, and one portion of the property is already under construction for a industrial use. So the applicant is proposing to have from wall to wall between these two structures 70 feet across that property line.
Okay, and the applicant is here?
Yes, sir.
All
Yes.
right. Okay, let me have the applicant come up. I just want to remind everybody in the room that this is a fairly small room, and even when you're trying to whisper, it's still, we can still hear it up here. But Mr. Boggs, come on up. Would you guys like to talk about this variance? Introduce yourself, tell us what you'd like to do, and then we'll take a public hearing.
I'm Larry Boggs. I live at 71 Garst Road, Carrollton, Georgia, and I want to address that. I don't know why I'm at the very city limits of Villa Rica, and yet I have a Carrollton address, so I wanted to address the council on that. But we're very well pleased with the tenants that we're having to build for in this area, right off 78 Highway at Liberty Road. They are pretty high-paying positions, and they come in the morning, and they go throughout the southeast during the day, and then they come back at night, and they are very high-quality mechanics, and this is what we're trying to attract in this total area. Therefore, we have a 50-foot buffer on the existing building, which is...
Y'all got a copy of this?
Yep.
I don't think we have it up here. Do you have it to put up on the screen? All right, hang on, just hold on to
hand
it.
those out for you then.
Do you
We've
have
already built
one for everybody?
Yeah, we got a bunch of them.
All right, I'll let you. A little outside the regular, but thank you, sir. I've been here all night. Yeah, we don't normally do that, but I'm gonna let you go.
Well, we're finishing 106 now, and we want to call this other one 108. And the 50-foot buffer is just too much between two small, 12,000 square foot buildings, or I feel like. We've got the second lot is 3.8 acres. The first lot is 3 acres there, and that's the one we've already built, and that's Crown Core, which does major glass work throughout the Atlanta area. Did the Omni and all the hotels, the glass on those structures. We've got somebody else, a similar type business, and I can't name them, for this 12,000 square foot building, which is the second building, 108. That's the one we're asking for the buffer of 20 foot rather than 50 foot. And we can build this building and get some I think some high-paying jobs for the Villa Rica area, which is very important to me.
All right, thank you. Let me see if council has any questions for the applicant or staff at this stage before I do a public hearing. Any council member wish to be recognized?
Just
All right, Ms.
for
McPherson.
staff.
For staff, come on up, Ron.
Ron, if you would just briefly explain somewhat, just like this morning, the issues, creek, water, floodplain, that sort of thing.
Sure. So as we can see on the plan here, the parcel on the south is the one that's the subject of this variance request. And the applicant has indicated in their letter of intent to the city to support their application that they do have some topographic related issues. There's a creek that also runs through a portion of that property. In addition to a septic system that has to supply this general area, being that there's no sewer that runs through here. So because of all of these three different things, they really had to crunch the building into that northeast corner there, and really hug the proposed 20-foot building line that they have shown on there. The applicant did stress to us when he made the application that they would leave 70 feet in between the buildings, which is far beyond what fire separation requires and other city regulations. So they do want to at least have a 70 feet between those two.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. So, but clearly, what I'm seeing here is that the recommendation here is to deny this. Is that
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Okay, you didn't find a hardship sufficient to do something different here?
Yeah. So essentially required of staff, we go with a denial for almost all of our variance applications as our standard start point. And it kind of has been like that now for a number of months, or possibly over a year for now. But I mean, I did weigh both sides of this. I weighed the negatives, some of the positives, and I did try to at least to be impartial and to kind of just give what I thought as an urban planner, you know, some of those required, or some of those reasons was because of topographic related issues, and I had no choice but to reference them because even the applicant referenced them, and that needs to be addressed. But you know, I did have to stick to the city's policy of recommending a denial for these types of applications, and we get them all the time.
Well, but clearly you didn't recommend a denial on everything tonight. We've had other items come before us where you recommended approval. So I'm asking you if there are circumstances, hardships here that would possibly present an approval as opposed to the denial. That's what I'm...
Yes, and the answer to that I would say would be yes. There's some topographic major issues that we talked about, and there is grounds for potential approval for this. It really comes down to how much distance does the council want to see between industrial buildings as this continues to build out. There's there is obviously tons of property that's still out there to be developed, and the developer could probably provide some more information on that. But we're setting a precedent for those other surrounding properties as well.
See, and I think that's a fair response. What it sounds like to me that you're saying, though, is that you weighed the pros and cons and you still came down on the side of denial. Is that what you're saying?
That's correct.
All right, let me do a public hearing. Well, let me see. Do y'all have one more or something real quick?
Ron, I think to kind of touch on a little bit what the mayor was going, we just approved a few variances that were applicant created through the dividing of parcels. And those were, you recommended approval on, and those were dissimilar districts between commercial and residential. Now we have a situation where we have similar districts, and it again is applicant created because they're subdividing a parcel, but we're recommending a denial on that. And I don't, if we could see the merit in a recommending approval on dissimilar districts, you know, I don't see how we can't see the merit in recommending approval on similar districts.
I think it would really depend on what specific variances in the last application would have been applied to those dissimilar districts. Like, for example, we talked about some of the buffers between those two districts and how that applicant was creating new lot boundaries that we didn't even know what they were, right? We had to go off of their site plan. And it was applicant created, as we know. It's something that is somewhat procedural in a sense, being that we already seen what their design was, and there has been some changes as we saw, but overall the site plan hasn't really changed much. But they, providing buffers between two different uses is. And even though they may have been in a different zoning district, all of this was being constructed at the same time. With this applicant, there's a lot of similarity between those two, right? Two different properties are being constructed at the same exact time, but they're also for the same use, right? So, and being that the applicant owns all of the property surrounding this, and the tenants that they have that are to be locating in these buildings, both of them, are already aware of the distance that these buildings will be when they take their lease. So I think for those reasons,
they sound like reasons to approve.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there. But like I,
I mean,
said,
I guess what I'm
there's.
coming down to is I don't see the public harm in denying this, in approving this, excuse me.
Sure. And of course, that's entirely, up to the council to kind of, to weigh those sides. I can only present them, in my reports, some of the positives and the negatives, and that's what I tried to do with this application. It was the one that I really went back and forth on. This was the smallest application that we saw tonight, right? But it took me almost the equal time as the one with 20 variances, because I really went back and forth on this. And as a planner, like I said, I have to stay impartial, and I had to stick with what the city's policy it actually was for this one. And that's kind of what I did, but I did see some merits in it.
All right, I think that's fair. Let me do a public hearing on this item. Is there anybody here who would like to speak for or against this item? All right, so I got the public hearing. I'll close that. Does anyone have any questions for the applicant or for Ron?
I've got one
Mr.
question
Carter.
on the motion here. The motion says Larry Boggs of Douglasville, Georgia, but he said he was from Carrollton.
His company is located in Douglasville.
Yeah, but it don't say Benchmark. It says, okay, so just, if somebody's gonna make, let's just change that to Carrollton. Because that's his
what he put
actual
on his
physical
application.
address.
Okay, that's what
Which
I want.
probably not gonna help you. All right, listen, okay, so is there anybody here who'd like to be recognized for a motion?
Yes.
All right, Ms. McPherson.
I move to approve the variance request from Larry Boggs of Carrollton, Georgia, from section 4.04/table 4.4 of the Villa Rica zoning ordinance to provide a 20-foot side yard setback in place of the required 50-foot side yard setback.
Second.
All right, did you say approve?
Yes.
Okay. All right, I have a motion to approve the variance request from Larry Boggs of Carrollton, Georgia, from section 4.04, table 4.4 of the Villa Rica zoning ordinance to provide a 20-foot side yard setback in place of the required 50-foot side yard setback. I have a second from Mr. Momtahan. Is there any discussion? I'll call the question. All in favor? All right, that is unanimous. It didn't kill you this time. Work on getting your address changed.
I would like to address that. I've been trying to for 40 years.
It sounds like
You
it.
c-
All right, thank you, sir.
He can
All
move
right,
to Villa Rica.
let's move on. Yeah, you could. All right, Nairee is new to this, and she has waited all day to do this. Special event permit to allow West Georgia Tennis Club to hold a King of the Clay tournament.
Yes, okay. I am back with clarity. Thank you, Chief. All righty, so we are presenting special event permit, West Georgia Tennis Club, located at 101 Baker Industrial Court, proposed to hold a King of the Clay mixed doubles tournament May 14th through the 15th from 12 p.m. to 3 p.m. on both days. We're here because Hickstown Brewery LLC would like to provide, is making application for a temporary alcohol license to provide the beer sales and service at this event. Both West Georgia Tennis Club and Hickstown are up to date on their occupational tax license, business license. Hickstown Brewery also has a active current alcohol permit, but it's for Nano Brewery, so they're just requesting permission to provide the beer at this event. They're going to set up the kegs and have their staff available. Brian Britt is here from Hickstown. And I also spoke with Chief, so in the ordinance it didn't spell out exactly, but Chief made me aware of the fact that they would need police permission anytime alcohol is referenced, so we're clear on that. I spoke with Paul Patuka with West Georgia Tennis Club and provided him with Lieutenant Scott Parker's information
Okay.
for that permission for police.
Okay, all right, well, that's good. You answered my question, but I have another one, though. It doesn't appear to me that the cover sheet was updated with a motion.
It's in there.
There's a motion, it's
So
just
mine
not
Yes,
a,
it was.
it's not a clear motion. We'll have to kind of fix it
Okay.
on the way.
No, it's pretty clear.
At least at the date and time it's up here.
All right, does anybody want to make a motion? Wait, is this a public hearing?
Do we need a
No.
public hearing?
All right.
I'll
Anybody
do,
want to make a motion?
I'll try the motion because I
All
got to
right, go
straighten
ahead,
it out a
Mr.
little
Carter.
bit.
See it?
Yeah, it's you got to combine the motion with the background. Okay, I move to approve the request for the issuance of a temporary alcohol license for the, let me find it here, West Georgia Tennis Club mixed doubles tournament on May 14th through the 15th, 2022, from 12 p.m. to 3 p.m. to Hickstown Brewery, LLC.
Did you double check him on that? Did
Me?
he read it off correctly? The event, the dates and times?
Yes, he
Okay.
did.
I didn't, so that's why I'm asking.
Oh,
you.
he did.
All right. So I have a motion from Mr. Carter. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right.
Second.
So I have a second from Ms. McPherson. Is there any discussion? I'll call the question. All in favor? All right, that's unanimous. Okay, thank you, Nairi. All right, we're going to move on to tab D, Human Resources. This is really back before us to clarify.
One more.
The uncorked,
Did I miss?
Yep.
uncorked on
I'm
Main.
sorry. Yep. This is the issuance of a temporary alcohol license to allow Uncorked on Main to provide wine and beer for the city's jazz festival.
Yes.
All right, go ahead.
Okay. So basically, Uncorked on Main would like to provide wine and beer sales for the Jazz Festival April 30th between 2 and 4 p.m. at the Mill Amphitheater. It's 4 to 9. Okay. The app, okay. I'll change it on the app, but the app says 2 to 4, but we'll make note it's 4 to 9.
Yeah, we don't have a motion on this one now.
Okay, do you have any questions for Nairi on this item?
I don't see a motion.
All right, is there a motion?
We'll have to come up with a motion here.
Yeah, I don't see a motion.
We don't have a motion on this either?
Yes, you do.
Oh, you do?
Is there?
That was my whole purpose for coming back.
I remember.
I have it right here. You want me to read it?
Do you have it? If you do, go
Okay.
ahead.
Yeah, it's not in the.
I move to adopt the ordinance to authorize the issuance of licenses for the sale of distilled spirits.
Oh,
by-
no, that's not
the wrong
No, that's
one.
not the right one. Wrong one. Never
Yeah,
mind.
that's not it.
Okay.
It's
Sorry.
okay. All right, Mr. Carter, you got it now?
Yeah, well, I'm going to make it up there. I move
It is
to,
behind you, though.
That's an update.
Okay.
No, this is not the same.
that's the
Okay.
wrong one.
Tom Barber.
I move to approve the issuance of a temporary alcohol license to allow Uncorked on Main to provide the wine and beer sales for the city's Jazz Festival on April the 30th, 2022 at the Mill Amphitheater from the hours of 2 to 4 p.m.
All right, so we're going to update those hours to
We
4
gotta
to
change
9.
the hours, yeah.
Okay, it says 2 to 4. We
Yeah.
can change that to 4 to 9.
All right.
Second.
All right, I have a motion from Mr. Carter and a second from Mr. Momptan. Is there any discussion?
Just
All
to
right,
move
I'll
it
call the
forward.
question. All in favor? All opposed? All right, that will carry 4 to 1.
All right.
Okay, all right, thank you, Nairi.
Okay.
Okay, so this next item comes back before us just for clarification on the motion. There was extensive discussion about this earlier today. This is a increase in officer pay and a retention bonus. Does anyone have a motion?
I got one.
All right, Mr. Carter.
I move to approve a $2 per hour increase in pay for recruits to chief, as well as a $1 per hour retention bonus for recruits to chief, both effective May the 1st, 2022.
Second.
All right, I have a motion to approve a $2 per hour increase in pay for recruits to chief, as well as a $1 per annual hour retention bonus for recruits to chief, both effective May 1, 2022. I have a second from Mr. Momtahan. Is there any discussion? All right, I'll call the question. All in favor? All right, that's unanimous.
Thank you.
Okay, let's move on to Public Works. This item has a public hearing. This is why it's back before us tonight. So Bobby, come forward. This is E1 final plat for Twin Oaks Unit 2B. Just briefly introduce this. We discussed this earlier today.
Yes, sir, Mayor. This is the last of our failed developments from the downturn. Actually, the streets were already paved. All the infrastructure was installed. We have re-inspected everything. It's got a new lift station in it. We've been working on this, what, Johnny, 6 months, 8 months? Trying to get this thing ready to go. All the work is not technically done yet. We got a little pipe work left to do on removal of the old station, Twin Oaks 1, and reconnecting to this new station, but we've got contracts signed to get that done. As I said, I've inspected my staff and I've inspected all the infrastructure again, pressure tested all the water. Mr. Blankenship, the owner, has posted his maintenance bond. Street light fees have been paid. I did not bring the plat with me tonight. It's been a long day. But if the council approves this, then I will leave it with Miss Elisa to get the mayor to sign it sometime tomorrow if approved. But staff recommends approval, Mayor.
Okay. Let me go ahead and do a public hearing on this because I think we can move quickly on this item. Is there anybody here who would like to speak for or against this final plat? All right, seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Council, does anyone have any questions or wish to be recognized for a motion?
Take it.
All right, Mr. Carter.
I move to approve the final plat for Twin Oaks Unit 11B. Is
2B.
that 2B?
All right, I have a motion
IB.
to approve the final plat for Twin Oaks Unit 2B. Do I have a second?
Second.
Did I startle you? All right, I have a second from Mr. Montahan. Is there any discussion? I'll call the question. All in favor? All opposed? All opposed? Was that unanimous?
Yeah.
All right, good deal. All right. Whew. Well, I did, but Ms. McPherson took a little while on that one, so I thought she might have been a no, so I looked over here and I looked back, and then I saw her hand move. And anyway, somebody looking out for me. Somebody brought me candy earlier today. Hey, behave. All right, finance update. All right, go ahead. So, Ms. Hallman?
Yes, here we go. I'll make it
Go
short
ahead
and
with that
sweet.
financial update.
Okay, this is as of February. We have total cash of just over $31 million, with 11.7 being general funds, water and sewer being $5 million. Still have the American Rescue Plan Act money of just under $3 million, and our total SPLOS for 15, 16, and 21 total over $8 million. Our residential permits and taps, I believe we had one for the month of February. We have, but so far this year, 31 building permits, 34 sewer and water taps. Local option sales tax is still performing very well. I think month after month we've seen an increase of anywhere from 12 to 17%. Carroll County received $158,000 from Carroll County and $134,000 for the Douglas County side, being a 12.7 and a 13.9% increase. Property taxes, this will be the last month I'll show this, but we're at 98% collection for Carroll County and 99% for Douglas County. We've collected just under $4.3 million. Water and sewer is the business activity. It's one of our enterprise funds. This is the same reasons as I previously have given in the prior months regarding the increase in expenditures. Through February, you can see that the sewer expenses are significantly more than they were the same time period last year. This is primarily due because of a lot of maintenance and repair on some equipment, chemicals of around $74,000, lab services, and rental of equipment. Our sanitation and solid waste fund, You can see our revenues are at $617,000, and our expenses are at $503,000, and right now we're showing a net income of just over $114,000. Last slide is our self-insurance fund. Our bank balance is around $943,000. Each month, we have seen where our revenue or our contributions being from the employer and employee have exceeded our expenses and our administration fees. So far, we've had a total savings this year of $162,798. And that concludes.
All right, council, does anybody have any questions for Ms. Hallman? All right, if there are none, thank you. All right, and we move on to the most exciting part of the evening. Do you have anything? Can you be brief?
Do we have executive session?
Yeah, well, in that vein, if you don't have anything urgent to report, I will strike out the remaining executive session, and I am ready to close this out as well. Avery, do you have anything to add? All right, Tom? Nothing?
Okay, good.
All right.
Move to
I'll
adjourn,
entertain a
Mr.
motion
Mayor.
to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
I have a
Second.
motion from Mr. Carter to adjourn. I have a
Second.
second from Ms. McCoy. She was real excited.
Sure.
I'll call the question.